Throw that one.
Start getting too many papers here.
Yeah. All right, the television has come live, so we are now broadcasting, and we'll call our meeting to order tonight, the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Welcome to everybody that's here. It's a little different tonight. We have our room here with folks in it, and then in the library, just down the hallway, we have several other people down there that are able to listen, watch, and hear. And as people want to do public comments, we'll bring those who want to speak from the other room at the library over to make their comments to the commission here. So it might be a little bit cumbersome, but I'm sure it'll go well. So if you would all, yes, just do verify a quorum first. Amber?
A.J. Mosqueda.
Present.
Ron Rice.
Present.
Jim Allen.
Present.
Tim Bowers. Scott Mulhern.
Here.
Danny Bryant.
Present?
Matthias Rosales.
Present.
Gary Black. Bobby McDermott.
Present.
Ron Van Wy.
Here.
Thank you. If you'd all stand and face the flag and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 3 on tonight's agenda is to elect a new chairman.
Minutes.
To elect a new chairman. We served for 2 years as chairman. We can serve 2 years. I have finished my second year. So the first action tonight will be to elect a new chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Van
I'd
Wy.
like to make a motion, please.
Yes, sir.
I move that we remain you in your position.
I'll second that.
Don't say no, Amber. We've already all voted that we agree that Mr. Bryant should remain in his position.
Mr. Chairman, the bylaws state that the chairman can serve 2 consecutive terms after that.
Executive.
It shows
You
that
change your name, Danny, and we'll do it.
in the past, it shows 2011, 12, and 13 was 3 consecutive years for somebody on the list. No, those are years, not terms.
I move that we make an
John
amendment to
McKinley
Yeah.
was 3 years in a row.
I move that we modify them then.
Sorry?
I move that we modify those the bylaws.
Mr. Chairman, in order to amend the bylaws, I would have to bring back an item before you so you can take official action at this time. I can't amend the bylaws without the item being on the agenda and without the public being notified.
The attorney shaking her head in agreement.
Okay, I move that in the interest of justice that we and time that we move to next month. Table this till next month.
Mr. Chairman, I would have to read the bylaws. At this time, we can move these 2 items to the end of the agenda and proceed with the cases.
We have permission to move electing the new chair and the vice chair to the end of the agenda. So we will proceed through the rest of the agenda, and staff will advise whether she can honor your request.
Do we need a motion for that?
No, I don't think.
Okay.
So items number 3 and items number 4 will move to the end of the agenda. And we will go to item number 5, Item number 5 is to approve the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes of December 20th, 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rice with a second by Commissioner Van Wy to approve the minutes as published. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Next item on tonight's agenda, special use permit case number 22-08, Evolution Energy LLC requests a special use permit per section 615-03C of the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Ordinance to allow a facility for the production of cobalt sulfate on a parcel 137.98 net acres in size. Staff report, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, presenting special use permit case number 22-08. The project is located in Don Valley, Welltown Planning Area, vicinity of Old Highway 80 and Avenue 47.5E, Tacna, Arizona. And the intent, as you mentioned, is to build a cobalt sulfate production facility. This is the zoning and vicinity map. The subject parcel is highlighted in crosshatch at the center of the map. The parcel is in desert terrain, is bisected by Interstate 8 on the southern portion and Old Highway 80 and Union Pacific right-of-ways on the northern portion. Property was rezoned back in 2006 and 2008. And is, if you guys remember, probably this was a location of the old, no longer proposed ethanol plant back in the same year. The zoning around the property is all RA40. All the properties are also vacant, desert terrain. This is an aerial view showing on the white rectangle on the east or right depicts the location of the special use permit in relation to Tacna, which is 7.5 miles west. This is an oblique view in reference to the mountains on the upper corner of the slide. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant. On the northern portion, highlighted in red, is the proposed location in the facility. Also, this facility will count with 2 solar facilities, one on the southern portion of Interstate 8 and another one on the north. These uses do not require special use permit, only the facility being proposed. This is a view looking east along Old Highway 80 from the middle of the property, let's say. Looking north from Old Highway 80. Now looking south from the railroad tracks. Received no comments from within the zoning area. We received comments from ADOT, Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, MCAS, and Greater Yuma Economic Development also. Staff recommends approval of special use permit case number 22-08, subject to the following performance conditions. Within 60 days of board approval, the owner or agent shall provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver, record an infrastructure disclosure statement, as well as an instrument route -218 disclosure statement. Number 2, prior to development or prior to May 20, 2024, the owner or agent shall, item A, in accordance with the Yuma County Public Works Standard Volume 1, Section 7.3, Guidelines for Traffic Studies, a traffic study shall be done. And B, all improvements required by traffic studies shall be reconstructed. Also, the following operational conditions. The approval of the special use permit is based on the site plan submitted by the applicant. Any change from the site plan requires prior approval by the planning director. And number 2, the special use permit shall be valid for a period not to exceed 15 years from the date of approval by the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Chairman, the applicant is present and he has a presentation for the commission, and that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions of staff before the, yes, Commissioner?
Yes, did we send a request for comments to the railroad?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and they did not reply?
They did not reply.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions of staff? If not, if the applicant's here and would like to present,
Yeah, he's present.
So I would just start with slide 18.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you guys very much. This is good right here. So we're local to the area. My father-in-law is Dr. Alani. He's been here for 40 plus years and sadly just passed away, but my mother-in-law is here. So my wife went to Yuma High School. So, you know, we've been coming to Yuma a long time. And as he mentioned, this parcel was going to be an ethanol facility, but we didn't manage to build that. But I think this facility is for electric vehicles. And a battery, the batteries related to electric vehicles, they need certain metals that have to be processed in order to go into the electric vehicles. And these metals are mostly processed in China. About 80% of the metals are processed in China. We'd like to move that processing back onshore to America and get jobs back in America, build infrastructure back in America, and provide lots of job opportunities for the local community, lots of local taxes, training for the newly employed people of the local area where we're hoping to get Arizona Commerce Authority to do training programs with the new Arizona Western College that's out in Welton, and basically just build back in America. And the product that we would make would then be sold to companies like General Motors and Tesla and Panasonic and LG, who are building electric vehicle battery manufacturing facilities in states such as Tennessee and South Carolina and Michigan. So the whole overview is to keep these businesses and these metals inside America instead of having it go to China, then go from China to America, and instead of going to China, we just bring it straight to America. If you guys want, I can go through the material. It is cobalt. It's mainly made in Africa, so it goes from Africa to China right now, but when we finish our facility, it'll go from Africa to America and stay in America. You want to move to the next one? We want to be fully green and carbon neutral, so our facility is going to be fully solar powered. We're going to put in about 28 megawatts of solar power to power the facility, and we are also planning to provide low-cost solar power to the local community in Welton Mohawk Irrigation District, who are suffering from the drought on the Colorado River, where they're losing access to hydropower, and they're having to go out to the national grid and sometimes pay 3 or 4 times what they're paying today for Colorado River power. So we've already spoken with the board of directors at Welton Mohawk Irrigation District, and they're happy for us to build these solar panels and use our excess solar and provide it to them at cost, basically, which is equivalent to what they're paying now for Colorado River power.
Excuse me, sir.
Sure.
You are?
Oh, sorry. My name's Navaid Alam. I'm the CEO of Evolution Energy.
Thank you.
Good question. That was an easy one. I hope there's more like that. Do you want to go to the next slide? Yeah, so it's going to be fully solar powered. We're not going to have any natural gas there. And whatever the solar power is then going to be used and stored in batteries. So we're going to have commercial scale batteries on site, so we can continue to keep production going overnight. So again, all fully carbon neutral. Do you want to go to the next one? Water for the facility will be drilled on our own land down to the aquifer level, about 1,000 feet below the water table. So we're not going to be using surface water or river water, and there's plenty of water down there. We're expected to use about 34 acre-feet a month. I don't know, we've got Larry Kilman here, who's the who's our local consultant in Welton, who used to be with the Water District for 28 years. Larry, do you want to say a couple of words about the water?
Just that basically it's a deeper aquifer. At Melton Mohawk's meeting last week, and Darren was there, they're looking at drilling.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
anybody that's speaking needs to provide their name and address.
Right, yeah, when you come to this podium, we forgot to read this, we got all excited with our chairman thing, but part of my instructions to you should have been, if you speak tonight, come to the podium, name and address for the record, and address your comments to the chairman. Yes, Maggie?
And the parking?
Parking, I was gonna say the.
Yeah, I thought I'd read it after this one, but I don't want to interrupt, but after I'll read this document to you. Yeah, go ahead.
Chairman, my name's Larry Kilman. My address is 29851 East Mountain View in Welton. I'm a long-term resident of the county. So I was talking about a presentation that was made by a consultant that was hired by the Melton Mohawk Irrigation District to look at deep water aquifers in the region. And out of that, they identified and they presented a map. His name was Tom Wilson. And it shows that there are significant aquifers beneath the valley that have never been touched. Basically, they're glacial water. So we have two major basins that are quite deep. So the one in what we call the Welton Valley has a depth of 3,200 feet. He estimates it to be 25,000 acres. And I believe the amount of water available was he estimated at 7 million acre feet. So it's below the aquifer that resides on top, that is contained within the Gila River, which is basically the Colorado River water that is important. But there's basically a clay layer, and Bobby could attest to this, that is approximately 120 feet deep. So it prevents the deep percolation and keeps that water on top. So what we're talking about is another basically pool of water below that they believe will be artesian. So if you drill a 500-foot well, they think the pressure that's there will push the water up possibly to 500 feet, which will reduce the pumping cost. So Welton Mohawk has talked about drilling some exploratory wells in this area to basically cap that water in case they need it for
Colorado River short. Yes. So you wouldn't be competing with farmers at all?
That's correct.
Maybe helping farmers.
That's the point we were trying to make.
Yeah, and we would be recycling 70% of the water as well. You want to move to the next one? Also, we are not having any tailing ponds on our facility. There won't be we won't be emptying or unloading trucks outside. Everything will be unloaded inside, and any products we make will be loaded inside of our facility. So we intend to have absolute minimal air pollution, and there will be no tailing ponds. Any materials, non-hazardous materials that we do produce will be going to Copper Mountain, which is only about 17, 18 miles away from where we are. So we're going to be very, very careful about the local air and water contamination. So top of the line equipment to handle all that stuff. You could
Back?
No, just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah. Our facility will bring products in from Port of Ensenada, go through San Luis, in Yuma, and come to Welton. It won't go via Long Beach. So we hope to, build out a nice corridor here and just use all the local facilities. They've got a brand new border crossing in San Luis for trucks, and so we want to contribute to the local community as much as we can. Keep going. Again, our facility will be, we'll use the top portion for solar, the bottom portion for solar, and just the middle portion north of Old 80 will be where the factory is. We're doing a traffic study right now, and we can improve the roads and add turning lanes. We don't expect there to be a lot of traffic. We're not going to be using any railroad. We're just going to be getting, about 2 trucks a day coming and going. 2 trucks coming, 2 trucks going. Ballpark is our estimate. So I think that's about right. We hope to maybe add like electric charging stations in the middle. So, you know, if these days a lot more people are getting into electric cars, and there's electric trucks coming, and a lot of people may even already have electric trucks. So we'd like to get a charging station, a super, you know, a DC fast charging station on site as well, and it's pretty accessible, just right off of Old 80 and 52E, I believe. So it should be easy enough, you know, to have that there. Next one. Also, this location is in a qualified opportunity zone, so it's extremely tax incentivized. There's a lot of tax incentives to build here. Under the federal government is providing significant tax breaks for this investment. Go to the next one.
How much longer is your presentation?
That's it. We're done.
That's it? Okay.
That's me. My partners are very well experienced in developing infrastructure around the world and the United States. And I have Dan Neff here, who's our head engineer from M3 Engineering. Do you want to come in and say hi?
Yeah, I'm Daniel Neff with M3 Engineering. My home address is 6231 North Campbell Avenue in Tucson. I'm a near native of Tucson. I was 3 months old when I arrived there, but we have an engineering company. We do a lot of work for the mining industry, and this is a subset of one of these mining process plants we would do, a hydrometallurgical plant to extract the cobalt sulfate from the cobalt hydroxide feed. So we do a lot of mining business there in Arizona. We have several Yuma area high school graduates who work for us at Tucson that went to University of Arizona. We prepared the feasibility or the scoping study for this. This would be the first cobalt sulfate plant in the United States. There's a small one up in Canada, but this would be the first one in the U.S.
Very nice. I hate to break your presentation, but I need to make this announcement because I didn't read it before the meeting because of our chairman mix-up.
Getting nervous.
But if you parked in the rear employee gated parking lot, if anybody parked inside the fence in the gated parking lot, you need to run to your vehicle and move it to the north-facing parking lot because they're going to lock those gates in about 3 or 4 minutes. And so I just had to break in to make sure people had a chance. So if you are in there, you need to move your vehicles. And if you have not signed in at the sheet at the back of the table, please sign in. And we do have a 3-minute timer we may have to put on some tonight. That's at the discretion of the chairman. And if you have information to present it to staff, and they will present it to the chair. Or if you have an overhead projector you use, give a copy to staff so that they can include it in the record. Restrooms are down the hall, just out the doors down the hall. Use as well, and please, no food or drink other than water. So now I'm up to date, and sorry to interrupt you.
Well, we're done. I think if you guys have any questions for us.
Do any commissioners have questions? Yes, Commissioner Rice.
I would assume that this is all coming in by truck.
Correct.
What's, coming out of wherever the ores, that's a bulk item, I would assume. When it goes out, is it a bulk item again?
It comes in super sacks, in bags, 1-ton bags, in trucks, in containers. So it's not really like a tip or a hopper. You know, it's just inside a container in bags. When it goes onto a boat from Africa, then it gets off that container that's on the boat in Ensenada, gets onto a truck. The container gets onto the truck and is driven over to us. And we offload the container inside our facility, so there will be no emissions to the outside.
You're going to stay in Mexico and cross where?
San Luis is the plan, yeah.
Going out, is it a bulk product again?
No, it'll go out in containers again, in sacks and containers. And it'll stay inside the United States, or it might go up to Canada.
Any other commissioners? Yes, Commissioner McDermott.
Yeah, 3 things. if you don't mind, I'll ask Mr. Keelman. Larry, the water process here, you're going to, without having to explain the whole process, does your wastewater have any particular minerals or things that could you run into the trouble with the waste stream from the desal plant, that sort of stuff? Is it just going to be evaporating out? Is there anything that can be picked up in the wind?
I don't believe so, and I'll
Okay.
check with Dan, but what we have is, we think that the groundwater will actually be better quality than the
Oh, I'm sure.
Colorado River water.
I'm sure.
So we will concentrate it to the point that it's not usable. I'm not sure if we
Yeah,
determine that.
the waste product will.
Could you come up to the microphone?
Comply with some waste.
Dan, to the microphone, yeah.
The tailings discharge, it will be basically like a sandy, like moist sand that the sand will, or the moisture will evaporate out of it. There's no waste stream. It's a zero discharge facility, so there's no wastewater stream that goes anywhere.
So you'll have basins that you will run the water into, and the water will evaporate down and all the rest. I'm just, when we get winds like we had yesterday or whatever, and I know that there have been problems in other areas where you evaporate off water, and there may be.
A basin is an option for this process,
Okay.
but because of the nearby farms and whatever, we decided, no, we're not going to do that. So we'll actually have filter presses inside the building that'll squeeze the water out as much as we can, and that water gets recycled. And what's left is some like moist, sandy clay material that will be taken to the dump. Taken to the dump, and it's.
Oh, okay.
And it's non-hazardous. It'll be, the dump's permitted to.
Yeah, it sounds like a well-contained enterprise, and I'm fascinated by it because that's interesting stuff. But then having superchargers, the folks who underestimate leaving Phoenix and heading to Yuma, it'd really be great to have a place almost halfway in between where you can say oops and charge up. So that's a great idea. But no, this is it's a great use of that area, which has been neglected by industry for a long time because we haven't had the water and the facilities and things to do things there. So this sounds like a really cool project. Thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions of the applicant? What kind of time frame?
Well, we're hoping to break ground at the end of this year or early 2024. And then it'll take another year and a half to finish the construction. So I'm hoping we'll be operational some point in 2025, end 2025, early 2026. That's fine.
Very nice. Any other questions of the applicant? Well, welcome back to Yuma, and thank you for your investment. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys.
This is a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing portion of the meeting tonight now and ask if there's anyone in the audience that wants to speak regarding this special use permit case number 22-08, either for or against.
Mr. Chairman, you might want to give it a few more minutes in
Because
case
of the
there's a
other
delay
room.
in the
Right.
tech library.
You're
Because of the
checking?
TV, yeah.
I see him on the radio, so. Anyone in the library room want to speak regarding this special use permit case?
I think they're still voting for you to be chairman.
Second delay.
Nobody. All right, no one has come forward to speak. We'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting and come back to the commissioners for discussion and action.
Chairman,
Commissioner Van Wyk?
I make a motion that we approve special use permit case number 22-8 as presented.
I'll second.
Got a lot of seconds.
There was a motion by Commissioner Van Wy with a second by Commissioner AJ to recommend approval of rezoning or special use case 22-08 as presented by staff. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recommendation is unanimous. Thank you for coming and welcome back to Yuma.
Thank you so much.
Item number 7 on tonight's agenda, special use permit case number 22-12. Rhode Island Nona of Nona's Investment Properties LLC requests a special use permit per section 612-03, section H of the Yuma County Planning and Zoning ordinances to allow propane dispensing on a 25,110 square foot size parcel zoned C2. Staff report, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, presenting special use permit case number 22-12, located in the Foothills Planning Area at 11525 South Fortuna Road, Yuma, Arizona. And the intent, as mentioned, is to allow the storage and dispensing of propane. This is the site plan and vicinity map, the zoning and vicinity map showing the subject parcel crosshatch, parcel number 98, is the location of a liquor store. On the north, there's a 3 parcels zone C2 as well. All those parcels highlighted also are general commercial, and all 3 parcels on the south also zone general commercial. There's only, out of those, only 3 parcels are vacant. It's parcel 254 and parcel 99 and 101. And on the east, we have Oasis del Este, is residential with a mixture of zone high density with a mixture of RVs, manufactured homes, and site builds. This is a zoom out aerial shown on the dot, the location of the subject parcel in reference to Interstate 8. A zoom in version. And now an oblique. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant. Highlighted in red is the location of the propane tank, which is a 2,000 gallon capacity propane tank protected with bollard. And the yellow area denotes the vehicular circulation. 6 parking spaces were deleted, and those will be relocated on the property to still comply with parking requirements. This is a view looking east of the subject parcel from the west. Now looking south is the subject parcel, the building location of the store. Looking south at the proposed propane facility and circulation area. No comments received from within the zoning area. However, we received 1 letter in opposition outside the notification area for this request. Staff recommends approval of special use permit case 22-12, subject to the following operational conditions. Number 1, the approval of the special permit is based on the site plan submitted by the applicant. Any change from the site plan requires approval by the planning director. Number 2, the special use permit shall be valid for a period not to exceed 10 years from the date of approval by the board. Number 3, rear parking lot shall be accessible to customers and employees during business hours. Also, the following performance conditions: within 60 days of board approval, the owner or agent shall provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver, and B, record a restricted airspace disclosure statement. Number 2, all required permits must be issued to the applicant within 1 year of approval by the board and finalized as per appropriate code requirements, including but not limited to unpermitted structures, unpermitted signs, grading permit to ensure proper retention of stormwater on site, improvements to the parking and circulation area for the dispensing of propane and placing of restricting barrier, steel bollards or approved equal area, as well as remarking of the circulation and parking spaces. Mr. Chairman, this concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, sir.
And the applicant is present.
Thank you. Do commissioners have questions of staff? Commissioner Van Wy.
Mr. Chairman, was there previously sales of propane there in the past? Because I saw there was appeared to be an area where there was, and there was also a propane sign that was on the front.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, the propane tank that you saw on those pictures and the signs were there built without the proper permit.
And is that currently being done now, Mr. Chairman, or has that been rectified?
And then chief of the official required to the owner to remove the propane tank and get a proper permit, which starts with a special use permit. And I think the applicant's present could clarify more how this happened.
Any other commissioners have questions of staff?
Yeah.
Commissioner McDermott.
So there had been, how long had propane sales been going on there before it was noticed?
That aerial is from March 2022.
Oh, they've been there a while.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
Any other commissioners have questions of staff? If not, The applicant is in the room. Would the applicant like to address the commission?
Hello, Revon Nona here, 11525 South Fortuna Road.
Repeat your name, please.
Revon Nona. So I opened this liquor store back in March. We had the propane tank put in there. There was a lot of miscommunication between the Ferrogas company and the county. There was emails sent out, which I had thought that everything was done properly. We done the electrical property. We had the propane sales. We did propane sales for about 7 months there. Then the chief inspector came and took it out. So we constructed the plants, we reconstructed the back, added the parking lot, did more retention base for the water. Grading permits we redone. So everything is fully up to code. Nothing's missing on that. I have multiple businesses in the city of Yuma. I have 3 other dispensers for Ferrogas propane in Yuma. Do a lot of business in Yuma. So I'm trying to expand my business to the Yuma County area and grow it out and hope to do more business with the Yuma County.
So you're an experienced propane retailer. You just got caught up with thinking you were legal when you were not.
Correct.
Any other commissioners have questions of the applicant? If we need you again, we'll call you up, but thank you for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing, and we will open the public hearing portion of the meeting now. And we'll ask if there's anyone in the library or in this room tonight who would like to speak concerning this special use permit case number 22-12. We have someone come forward with name and address for the record, please.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name is Paul Kalmar. I'm from Kansas. I'm a frequent resident here in the wintertime, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak to you tonight for this. I also have comments on something else, but there are other propane retailers right close to there, and well, I'm not saying he shouldn't be allowed, but my only question is for public safety. I don't know if it's ever happened before, but what would happen if one of those tanks blows up? Just need to remember that. Thank you.
Thank you for your
I
comments.
mean, can I get his
Yes,
address?
sir. We forgot your name and address for the record.
Paul Kalmar, Kalmar.
Address.
My address here is 12408 South Linda Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience like to address the commission tonight? Yes, sir. Come forward, please. Name and address for the record. I'm going to get this right.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Selye. I'm going to give you my APN number is 728-07001. We don't have an address at that location yet. We believe out there in the foothills that anytime we can get something closer to us and keep us from having to drive on north frontage to get propane and south frontage to get propane and can relieve any congestion whatsoever and help support the local community, as you can clearly hear, he wants to come out there to be with us. We would definitely like to approve that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else? If you'd like to speak, come forward. Name and address for the record, please.
Pauline Burke, B-U-R-K-E, and the E is silent. I just wanted to say, the picture you showed up
Address?
on... address, 12269 South Ironwood Drive, Yuma, Arizona, 85367. And I'm considered county, I believe. I don't know what district, by the way. On the screen, you guys were showing the liquor store, correct? That's what we were talking about, correct? We're talking about right now?
Right.
Okay, I want to let you guys know, when that liquor store came in, it made my day. You know how hard it is to drive into Yuma to go to a liquor store? So I want you guys to appreciate it.
Harder driving back.
I don't know the gentleman, if he was the one that
Drinking and
serviced me.
driving though, are you?
but I want you guys to know, I appreciate it, and I hope you guys approve them.
Just don't drink and drive though.
Thank you so much. Anyone else in tonight's audience who need to speak concerning this? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting and come back to the commission for discussion and recommendations.
Chairman?
Commissioner Rosales.
I make a motion to approve permit case number 2212 as recommended by staff with the
Second.
conditions.
We have a motion by Commissioner Rosales with a second by Commissioner Van Wy to recommend approval of special use permit case number 22-12 as presented by staff. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recommendation for approval is unanimous. Special use permit case 22-12. Item number 8 on tonight's agenda, rezoning case number 22-21. Raul Garcia Molina, agent for Aaron C. Bennett Family Trust, dated 6/28/2021. Request to rezone a .34 gross acre partial from rural area, 20 acre minimum, RA20, to planned development, PD. Staff report, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Anson Lahosset, Senior Planner, presenting rezoning case 2221. The request is to rezone a parcel 0.3 gross acres in size from RA20 to PD. The parcel is located at 10355 West Vista del Rio Street in the Martinez Lake Planning area. And the intent of the proposed use is a single-family residential lot. This is the vicinity and zoning map showing the subject parcel in crosshatch. The majority of the parcels to the north and northwest are within the Martinez Lake Resort Unit Number 1 subdivision, are zone PD, and are developed with a mixture of site-built homes, recreational vehicles, and manufactured homes. Parcel 31 to the north, 41 to the northeast, and parcels 2 through 6 to the west are zoned RA20 and have site-built homes. Parcel 902 is the private streets within the Martinez Lake Resort Unit Number 1 subdivision, Yuma County Improvement District number 09-03. Parcel 143-19002 to the southeast is state land. This is an aerial image of the surrounding area. The parcel abuts the Colorado River and has an existing residence. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant with what is existing and what is proposed. This is an image looking east at the subject parcel. This is an image looking east at Toole Road, which is 1 street north of the subject parcel. And there's an image looking west at Vista del Rio Street. The subject parcel is at the end. And an image looking west at the subject parcel. Staff received 8 letters signed by 11 property owners within the zoning notification area. 7 are opposed. The other 4 provided concerns that included, the concerns included views, drainage, and structures built without permits were mentioned. A 15-foot height restriction was requested. The Arizona Game and Fish Department provided a heritage data management system report and the following comment. The department would like to encourage private developers and Yuma County to use the Arizona Online Environmental Review Tool as part of their standard operating procedure for review of new construction and development. Staff recommends approval of rezoning case 2221 subject to the following performance conditions. Within 60 days of Board of Supervisors approval, the owner agent shall provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver, record a schedule for development disclosure statement, submit a revised site plan that is to scale and depicts the parcel dimensions, all existing structures, their use, and the setbacks from property lines, and schedule for development within 90 days of the Board of Supervisors approval, a development plan and covenants, conditions, and restrictions, CCRs, as required by section 616.03 of the Yuma County zoning ordinance, shall be submitted, as well as revised plan development standards to provide a minimum of 4 parking spaces. The parcels in red are property owners in opposition. The parcels in yellow had concerns. And Mr. Chairman, this completes staff's presentation. Are there any questions for staff?
Thank you, sir. Commissioners have questions of staff. Commissioner McDermott.
Yes, sir. In looking at the summary notes, the Building and Safety Division commented the site plan submitted was not accurate. There were structures on the sites without permits. The flood control district stated any improvements of the parcel would require a floodplain use permit. And the assessor commented that the ownership is in the name of Aaron G. Bennett Family Trust, dated June 28th, 2021. This is is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Are those comments correct, that there was no correct site plan and that the ownership is not clear, as in the report that we received from staff?
Mr. Chairman, those were the comments received during the request for comments, and those are correct.
In particularly in this very special area of planning within Yuma County, I would certainly need a site plan before I could make any kind of decision either on an amendment or on an approval. I just, there's too many concerns in that area.
Any other commissioners have questions of staff? Commissioner Van Ryn.
Yeah, I dovetail off what Bobby just said. Can you go back to the aerial view, please, of the property?
There is a zoom aerial.
Yeah, that one there. Now, and there's a residence on the property, correct?
Correct.
And what is the intent to build another residence?
Mr. Chairman, in discussions with the agent, the intent is to construct a single-family dwelling. The agent is at the meeting. If you would like to ask him for a little bit more information over the intent.
I'd like to, Mr. Chairman, what I would like to know is that if they plan on building another residence in addition to what's already on.
Once the commissioners get done with staff, we can bring forward the applicant. Maggie, you had a.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, based on the information that was provided by the applicant, and it's on page 2 of your staff report, or of the staff report, the development standards for the law, the permitted uses is 1 single-family residence. So there were 2 site plans submitted by the applicant. One shows a building, and then the other shows a vacant lot. The assumption is, at this time, is that they may tear down the existing residence and build a new residence. The other thing that was submitted was the proposed setbacks. The setbacks are similar to those that are allowed within the Martinez Lake Resort Plan Development, which is 3 feet in the front yard, 0 side yard setback, and 3 feet in the rear yard. And they are also proposing a maximum height of 32 feet for the.
How many feet?
32 feet, which is the same height that is allowed in the Martinez Lake Resort Plan Development. And they're also proposing 2 parking spaces. However, with the recommendations from staff is that they revise the site plan or revise the development standards so that they can accommodate 4 parking spaces, which is what the Martinez Lake Plan Development requires.
So you're working, I mean, staff's trying to see if they can get the same thing Martinez Lake got, but nothing more than that.
Correct.
Commissioners have questions of staff? If not, if the applicant is present, would you like to come forward and address the commission? Name and address for the record.
Good evening, members of the commission. I'm Raul Garcia Molina. I represent Mr. Aaron Bennett. On this case, my address is 10561 East 36th Street in Yuma. Well, the existing zoning of this parcel is RA20. The existing setbacks are 50 feet from the property lines on the sides and 50 feet from the front. And I can't remember the back, but I think it's 3 feet. The existing house, which he intends to keep it as long as he can until he's ready to build a new house, it's out of compliance. So he wants to be in compliance with the county standards, and he wants to do the best use of his land. And like you mentioned, he's not requesting more than what the existing PD on the north is. And the only way to improve the land is with this new zoning or have a variance. Now, the existing height permitted right now is 60 feet. And I'm sure the property owners on the north will not like 60 feet. So he's proposing going to PD with a 32-foot height and the setbacks to zero lot lines. He's not intending to build any windows on the zero lot line if he builds to the zero lot line, which he doesn't think he's going to do that. But that's the basics.
Commissioners have questions of the applicant?
So the end result is going to be just one residence, period, no matter how it plays itself out.
That is correct.
That was my concern.
And the reason why he did not present the plan, because he's waiting for this rezoning to see what the outcome is going to be, and then he can bring with a site plan.
Commissioner McDermott.
And how did you decide on a 32-foot height?
That's the same standard on the north side for the PD of Martinez Lake Resort. And that's by
It's
the
not,
standards.
it is different than the surrounding area.
No. It will be the same as the PD on the north side, which is Martinez Lake Resort, 32 feet high. He's not requesting for anything more than that.
So I'm getting a little confused. That area is not a PUD right now, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is not.
The whole area.
Mr. Chairman?
PD to the north. Yes, Commissioner.
Yes, the parcels to the north are within Martinez Lake PD. Those are, like I said, zone PD. The properties that are to the east, the subject property and the properties to the east are all zoned rural area 20-acre minimum. The maximum height allowed in the RA zoning district is 60 feet.
60.
The applicant, 60. The applicant is proposing a maximum height of 32 feet through the plan development.
So the PUD area is the area in tan?
That's correct.
Okay. So are any of the properties due north and east of the subject property 60 or 32 feet in height?
Chairman, the area in question is the property that is crosshatched on the map.
Correct.
That is the property that is proposed to be rezoned. Everything to the north except parcel, the parcel shaded in blue, which is parcel 31, is already zoned planned development. There's also a property, sort of a odd shaped, that is zoned RA20. The remainder of those parcels are zoned planned development.
I believe Bobby was asking, Commissioner McDermott was asking, in the PD, that Martinez Lake PD, are some of those buildings 32 feet high?
Mr. Chairman, the new structures that have been constructed are at least 32 feet high. There have been a number of variances that have been approved that have increased the height to 36 feet.
A lot of them are 32 or more.
Correct.
And then in the blue area, are those are not in the PUD, is that correct?
RA20.
Okay, and those are all, have homes developed and things on those as well?
Mr. Chairman, I
The south-
believe that those are, the smaller parcels have either a recreational vehicle or manufactured home. The parcels to the east that are zoned RA20 are the locations of site-built homes.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions of the applicant? If not, if we need you again, we'll call you back up. Thank you. This is a public hearing, and we will now open the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting and ask if there's anyone in the audience, either in the library or here in our Aldridge Hall, who would like to speak concerning this rezoning case 22-21, either for or against. Come forward, name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Scott Harlan, 10345 East Tooley Road, directly north of the applicant. First, I'd like to say a little bit nervous, but I'd like to clarify, so there's no misunderstanding about planned development height. The reason for that height is the size of the lots that were subdivided when the original planned development was proposed. For example, my lot is only 30 feet wide. So for me to have sufficient parking for 4 vehicles and living space, that has to go up. And 32 feet was the original design of our house. And as staff suggested or stated, there have been some variances for 36 feet. So kind of comparing the planned development to that RA20 lot, which is almost a third of an acre, or actually a little bit more than that, I believe. Our argument is that we designed our homes with a view to the Colorado River in mind, knowing that on the development side, we fully expected other lots to be purchased and constructed to that height. So all of our windows are to that side. I understand that the RA20 lot has a 60-foot allowance, but that would not be within 3 feet or potentially right on the lot line to my home. It's a big difference there. So if I had known that, I perhaps would have purchased another lot or designed the house differently. But my contention and the other neighbors is that we're fully on board with someone doing to their land what they wish to do. But when we purchased our land and built our site-built homes, it was under the understanding with the current zoning, both in the planned development as well as in the adjacent RA20 lots. We, as a neighborhood, how can I put this, would like to come to an understanding with neighbors that want to do construction. None of us are against that. Improves the neighborhood, increases the tax base, helps support our struggling fire department with additional taxes. But I think the way that this was initially carried out or was represented was very difficult for us to accept. There are no designs submitted, so we don't know if that 32-foot structure will go immediately right on the lot line, which would have a negative effect on the value of our homes and the use of those homes. I would like to add that just today, there has been some communication and perhaps a glimmer of coming to an understanding with the property owner. That would be my wish, and he expressed that he feels the same way. Nobody wants to tell a property owner what they can and cannot do. That's your job with their property. But my feeling was that we could all come to an understanding, an arrangement that would be beneficial to both parties. All parties involved. But I would ask that the rezoning be denied. And if we do continue discussion with the neighbors and the applicant, and he understands our concerns, we understand his concerns and his desires, perhaps he could resubmit. One last point, I would like to say that the, and I'm not an engineer, but the lot survey done by Jacobson Corporation or companies, October 17th of last year,
does not show structures that are currently in place. And one of those structures is already to the lot line. So none of us have complained about that, but our feeling kind of were, if this has been done, then the next thing, you've already got this bite, you're going to take another bite. And we kind of felt very strong that we had to say our piece regarding the rezoning.
Well, thank you for coming and staying your piece. And so you understand the process tonight, we don't tell people what to do. We recommend to the supervisors what they do. So no matter what happens tonight, there's another bite at the apple coming up when it gets to the Board of Supervisors.
Understand.
Certainly would be nice if you guys could all walk in there with an agreement in place.
And that would be our wishes.
That would be nice. But thank you for coming. Does anyone have questions of this speaker?
I have a comment. In reference to, I understand where you're coming from. Believe me, I'm a property owner as well, and we definitely do want to encourage the use of property. Your concern obviously is 32 feet. But Maggie, if I'm wrong, the RA 20 right now allows the property owner to go up to 60 feet. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
So,
And
so the property owner could go to 60 feet if he wanted to.
And I wouldn't have any say about that. I would say, go for it. If you want to pay for that and design it structurally, there's nothing I can say about it. I would not be standing here. My concern is that if this is the property line, he can build that 32 feet now, right here. Or with no windows, my understanding when we built 12 years ago, is he can build it right on the lot line, 3 feet from my home, 32 feet high. So same as in the planned development. The planned development, 32 feet is because the bottom floor is for parking and the top floor is for living space because of the size of the lots. Probably shouldn't have been done that way originally. The lots should have been combined to make it bigger, but you know as well as I do that that planned development is problematic. So there are unique things to that planned development that that particular lot the applicant has. He's got 1/3 of an acre. Why would you need to go to the lot line? And severely impact myself and my neighbors.
We've got your point for sure. Does any other commissioners have questions?
Thank you.
If not, thank you.
I understand.
Thank you for coming and sharing with
Thank you.
us tonight.
Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Well, we will see, won't we? Yes.
Hello, Cameron Lamport, 10351 East Thule Road, Lot 27. You could zoom in on it. Right next door to Scott there. All of it, he said, ditto. The only thing I would be asking if somebody would go out and see in person the impact from RL 20 to planned development. The setbacks are different. So you can go 60 feet up, but the setbacks, the footprint's smaller. Therefore, our views and our houses aren't going to just be a wall in front of us. Some yes, some no. Can't go that big. So with the new rezoning, the footprint gets larger due to the current. With some other structures that have been put up without permits and all that's none of my business, but somebody should probably go out in person to see, because the pictures really don't do it justice for what could impact. Not 1, 2, 3, or 4, but all those properties along the tan area in that circle will be affected. And moving forward, going down the row in the greens on the RL 20 development side opens up the door for them to do the same thing. And there'll be a lot more of these types of concerns and issues moving forward, in my opinion. But without going out and seeing in person or having some better pictures to show, it's kind of hard to tell. Of course, it's fair for them to go 32. We did 32. They did 32. But at the time of purchase, our tax assessment, the building, and everything, that was RL 20. Knowing, yes, we could be impacted a bit, but not like if it was rezoned. So that was my input for driving out from San Diego. I split time between the two properties tonight to give you my statement. And would hope somebody could go out in person and actually see what the impact will be.
Thank you so
I
much.
oppose the rezoning at this point, without amendments.
We figured that one out
Yep,
for sure.
thank you, sir. And congratulations, too, for your 3rd year.
You're just proving you need to be there, Danny.
Yes, 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 ma'am. Come forward, please.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Gonzalez Reckworth, 10375 West Vista del Rio. I live 2 lots from Aaron, and I'm also representing the Irwin Family Trust, which is right next door, 10365 West Vista del Rio. So Irwin's is next door to Aaron's, and then I'm right next to that. Irwin's are extremely concerned, as I am myself, because we have not seen what these grandiose plans are of Aaron's as far as what he wants to build. Irwin's were one of the first settlers there, one of the first deeded lots. They have preserved, they have fought, they have maintained what Martinez Lake was originally set up as. And the concern, seeing the PD when it took place, it had to happen because it was a trailer park. It was dangerous for anybody and everybody. It was a hazard. But changing our street, which is a private street, private homes, we were not affected by the PD. I had to fight time and time again to maintain our road access, to maintain access to our streets. So I live there full-time, year-round, and I see what's going on, stuff that takes place that is supposed to be one way, but they sneak it in another way. So again, Irwin's my concern is we've yet to see what a plan is that they're proposing. They're highly against the 0 setback and against the structure up. The Irwins have probably one of the best views of any property out there, whether it be north, south, east, west. And we're already contending with, what we see going north, which we had no choice over. But blocking the view of the river and everything else is a big concern, big concern. Water runoff, the ground, everything is all being affected by the development that's been taking place. It's like they just said, if you were to come out and take a look visually and see what's going on, just with the approved plan development and how it's affected, water runoff and all that, you'll see the concerns. So some people will say, oh, well, that's what you get for buying a piece of property out there. Well, that's my livelihood. That's where I live year-round. It's not just a vacation home. It is where I reside, my residence. So very, very concerned. So before anything's approved, yes, we want to see something in stone, something that's submitted, a plan that will be stuck to.
Thank you for coming and sharing with us. Who else would like to speak tonight? Yes, sir.
My name is Mike Powers. I live at 10339 East Tooley Road. I am directly north of him. I am just here to say that I oppose it. I think that there needs to be something that's actually set that we can look at, and we can see what's going on without just an open checkbook. This proposed on RA 20 for the 60 feet, that's for a 20-acre minimum lot. So I know that when I built there, in order to build this tiny house, the lot is 1,394 square feet. And in order to go that high, there was all kinds of restrictions as far as Simpson walls and things of that nature. So to try to build a structure that's 60 feet tall with those kind of setbacks that he currently has, I mean, I think that's the thing that they're saying is, well, we could already go 60 feet. Well, no, you probably wouldn't get approved for that because structurally you wouldn't be able to build it on that small of a footprint. So he has plenty of room to build over 1/3 of an acre. I don't understand why he would want to do something like that. We only did it because we didn't have a choice. We had to go up to provide the parking. Parking is a big issue out there, so I oppose it.
Thank you for sharing with us. Any questions? No. Well, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. How many more speakers do we have on this rezoning case? Anyone here? Yes, sir. Come forward.
Luis Garcia Molina, 10561 East 36th Street in Yuma, Arizona. I want to answer some of those questions that people in the area has. He's not planning on building to 60 feet. That's allowable height that can be done. He's planning to build 2 stories. Now, the footage of that lot might be 0.44 acres, but there's an easement on the back, so it's restricted. The size will be close to what they have. So he's gonna have to provide for parking spaces also. So he might need to have on the first floor the parking, and that would be a
Let me make sure
restriction.
I understood what you just said. Even though he has almost 0.4 acres, he has a easement on the back that he can't utilize, that takes it down to 1,300 square feet?
There's an easement on the back, but there's also a slope on the back. You can see from the house, it goes down. It's a slope. And there's an easement on the back. Pedestrian easement.
Pedestrian easement.
Mhm.
It's on the site plan.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, what Mr. Molina is trying to say is that the back 2/3 of the lot, or I mean, approximately 1/3 of the lot, is not developable because of the slope.
So he
And an
faces-
easement.
He faces the same restrictions of the PD on the north. Size, height.
Okay. Any other comments? Last call. Does anyone else want to speak concerning this? Yes, one shot at the apple. If everybody starts
I was
quiet.
just going to say, I couldn't hear what he was saying, but if it was approved, I don't think it's going to be right now, but whether he is saying he's going to or not going to build whatever it is, the property would now be rezoned and have the opportunity for now or later or new owners to do it then. I don't know if that's applicable to say at this point, but something my conscience said that I should speak up and say.
Thanks again.
So thank you. Have a great night.
All right, no new speakers? We will close the public hearing portion of the meeting and come back to the commissioners for discussion and action. Commissioners? Commissioner Rice?
I've got a problem I'd like to see a better plot and what they're really gonna do. This thing is ambiguous as far as I'm concerned, and I can't approve it.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner McDermott?
Yes, definitely, and this thing about it being undevelopable, well, then that's even more important to have a site plan that shows exactly what's going to happen there. I don't believe in zero lot lines, and if he's got more ground than anybody else that is existing there, and he is having trouble figuring out how to put a house in there, I think it's really important that there be some kind of a plan that can be looked at so that you can approximate what the effect is going to be on the neighbors. It's always difficult when you're the last guy on the block to develop, but it doesn't preclude anybody else's rights. And that's the thing that worries me. So,
Commissioners' comments, action?
Chairman, as far as that goes, Maggie, as far as you say undevelopment, is it undevelopment by regulation, or can it actually be built up and be developed upon?
Mr. Chairman, that depends on whether that back portion of the property is within the floodplain. They may have to obtain permits from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and then they may also need to obtain permits from the Flood Control District to be able to make that back portion of the lot developable. Like I stated, what you see on the site plan, the area, I think those are walkways, if you want to put the arrow.
There should be a walkway back there, yes.
Yeah, it looks like there are possibly sitting areas or walkways there on the west side of the property. That's where the property slopes, or there's a slope towards the...
down towards the water.
Yeah.
Towards the water,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
The front portion of the property is flat or even terrain.
But that is also the largest, the widest piece of the property. You know, they've got more square footage in there than,
The front will be the narrowest.
The part facing the water is the widest, right?
Which is unusable.
Right,
basically.
which is unusable.
Because that's where the easement for the pedestrian and that's the slope to the thing. So anything, if they wanted to build anything, it would be to the front, which is the narrow because of the triangle shape of the lot. Can you
Mhm.
show the proposed site plan if the house were to be torn down? I think that showed everything in perspective. Right there. So you see the private pedestrian, all that width, and that'll be the water in the backside. If you were to tear this down, the triangle area, the flat areas would
From
would
the
be
X
built.
back?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this site plan, it doesn't show the entire property. There, it's not
Not all
a
there.
full site plan.
There is a septic system on site also.
Got to stay from the septic system. What's the pleasure of our commissioners tonight?
Chairman, I would move that we send this back to staff to sit with the owner to develop an actual site plan before it come back to us.
I second that.
Is
that possible, Maggie?
That's a first. We're going to have to explore that, but let me say what we have. We have a motion by Commissioner Van Wy with a second by Commissioner AJ to send it to staff to come up with a better plan before they bring it forward. Is that a legal action that we can take?
Continue the item.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, what you could do is take no action and continue the case to the next public hearing so that staff can work with the applicant in coming up with a
Motion, right?
That would be my motion, Mr. Chairman.
I think I heard Commissioner Van Wy say that he moves to table this item.
Yes, sir.
Until our next, continue this item to our next meeting. And that was a
That
second by AJ. Okay, there's motion and second on the floor. Discussion.
Question, Mr. Chairman, if I may ask the applicant, in regards to this motion, a question? Applicant?
Would the applicant come forward, please?
In the spirit of working with the community, I understand that a property owner normally won't do the expense of creating a site plan and doing what they need to without knowing if the zoning is going to pass. If this is continued, would your applicant be willing to submit a, if approved, site plan, what he plans to do with the property to be able to show and address everybody's concerns?
We'll have to check with him, but I would say if we continue to the next meeting, we'll bring more information on this parcel in the project.
And I think that the issue is visual. They want to see what his plans are. And I understand he can't figure out if he's going to build a 32-foot or a 60-foot, depending if the zoning moves or not. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to do a 60-foot, But if the applicant is willing to do that, I think that's probably going to be the best compromise for everybody's concerns and for staff and for the commissioners up here.
And we did have the one speaker tonight said that some doors had been opened up just today with some communication.
Right.
So that buys time without having to start over or sending it forward with a no recommendation. So it's not to satisfy either party tonight, but I think that's where it's going to go.
Continue.
And that'll show good faith on your part as with your applicant as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, the next meeting is February 28th.
February 28th.
Be in the motion too, so it's a
That'd be
public
the
notice.
last day of the month, so it's going to,
Not a leap year this year?
I move that we table this,
continue it until the 28th.
Table is killing,
Table it.
continue is moving forward.
table it to.
No,
till-
continue.
Oh, continue till February 28th on this, on rezoning case 22.
Yes, so just so that the motion is clear, the motion is that we continue this item to our February 28th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for additional action and discussion. There's a second to that. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous that this item is continued to our February 28th meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Next item on tonight's agenda. Item number 9, minor amendment case number 22-05. Kevin Dahl, agent for Granite Yuma LLC and Desert Properties Development LLC, requests to change the land use designation of 7.94 acre portion of a partial 570 gross acres in size from mixed use to regional commercial and a 3.6 acre portion from local commercial to mixed use residential. Staff report, please.
Chairman.
Yes.
I need to recuse myself from minor amendment case number 22-05. I'm currently employed by the company that's the agent for the applicant.
Let the record show that Commissioner Mulhern has declared a conflict and will not take part in discussion or action concerning minor amendment case 22-05.
Mr. Chairman, the items 8 through 14 are involving properties that are adjacent to each other, that are in the same area. Staff received numerous letters and petitions in opposition to these requests, and staff is asking that the items be open at the same time so that we can present them.
This will be items 9 through 14.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
9. It's 9. I didn't have my glasses on.
So let's go ahead and open item number 10 as well, rezoning case number 22-22, and minor amendment case number 22-06, and rezoning case number 22-24, minor amendment case number 22-07, and rezoning case number 22-25. And we'll do a staff report on the entire project.
Mr. Chairman, there'll be individual staff reports, but
Okay, yes, but we'll hear them all at the same time.
yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Javier Barraza, Senior Planner, presenting minor amendment case 2205 and rezoning case 22-22. Looking at the screen, highlighted in orange is our minor amendments 2205, if you can locate it. And also highlighted in red will be the entire property to be the rezoning case. So I just want to clarify it. You can see on the same map on the west is the following cases. The project is located at Foothills Planning Area, northwest corner of County 12th Street between Avenue 14E and Avenue 15E, Yuma, Arizona. And the intent of the minor amendment is to accommodate the rezoning of the subject property from rural area 10-acre minimum to recreational vehicle subdivision and general commercial C2. Outlined in red is the entire property bisected by Interstate 8, and the only area we're touching at this time are the crosshatch portions of the southern portion of parcel 2. The land use existing surrounding those portions of the parcel are mixed-use residential on both. And if I can direct your attention to that house circle on the east along Avenue 15E, that local commercial portion will be changed to mixed-use residential of 0.6 acres. This is an aerial view, outlined in red, if all is visible. It's the entire property, and highlighted in yellow of the portions to be amended in reference to Foothills Boulevard and Interstate 8. All comments and correspondence will be presented in the rezoning portion of rezoning case 22-22. At this point, staff recommends approval of minor amendment case number 22-05 based on the following. The amendment is consistent with the existing character of the Foothills planning area. Number 2, the amendment will be an overall improvement to the plan since this will ensure development occurs in a coordinated, contiguous, and comprehensive manner. And number 3, the amendment is in character with the existing land uses and support policies of the plan to provide consistent land uses. I will move to the rezoning case portion of the presentation, rezoning case number 22-22. And the request is to rezone 7.94 acre portion of a parcel, 570 gross acres in size from rural area 10-acre minimum to general commercial, and a 283 acre portion to recreational vehicle subdivision. The intent is to develop a mix of residential and general commercial uses on that portion of that parcel. This is the zoning and vicinity map. The crosshatch on the northwest corner of that portion of the parcel is to be rezoned to general commercial, and the remainder to RVS. The blue color is the location of the washes in the area. Parcel on the west, parcel number 1, is zone RA10. It's a vacant in desert terrain and is the location of rezoning case 22-25 to be heard later. Parcel on the southwest, parcel 22, is also vacant terrain. zone RA10, and is the location of rezoning case 22-24. And parcels 5 and 28 on the south are zone RVS in desert terrain. And on the south also is Las Barrancas number 1, zone RVS, improved with site-built dwellings. Parcel 89 to the south also is zone general commercial. At this point, they're vacant. Parcel 198-13-001 and 198-12-002 are also zone RA10, are unimproved in desert terrain. This is an aerial view showing the portion to be rezoned. In yellow, the portion to be rezoned to RVS. General commercial, and in orange to RVS. This is a view looking southeast of the subject property from the northwest corner. Now looking west of the subject property from the northeast corner, intersection Avenue 15E and South Frontage Road. Now looking northwest of the subject property from the southeast corner, the intersection of County 12th Street and Avenue 15E. Now looking north of the subject property from County 12th Street in front of the Las Barrancas number 1. Staff received 16 letters in opposition signed by 38 owners with 6 duplicates, 16 within the notification area and 16 outside the notification area. And before the meeting, I received a bundle of about 66 more that I will need to register on the map and see which ones are where in opposition. And the main concerns are pretty much traffic, flood, negative impact on this environment, and high density zoning in the foothills, and negative impact on resources. We received also the following correspondence. ADOT proposed the following comment. The proposed development will lead to greater congestion and operational difficulties at the Foothills Boulevard traffic interchange along Interstate 8 unless Yuma County builds an east-west connector road in the area. MCIS mentioned that the subject parcel is located approximately 2 miles from the area and Goldwater Range, northern boundary. It is requested that a navigation easement and range disclosure statement be recorded. Arizona Game and Fish Department mentioned that the project area's potential western Borman owl habitat. The AGFD has recommended the implementation of best management practices for wildlife and their habitat that may be affected by the development. The full list of best management practices can be found on the attached document submitted by the AGFD, which accompanies this staff report, which is on your packet. Staff recommends approval of rezoning case number 22-22, following to the following performance condition. Within 60 days of board approval, the owner agent shall provide an IRS 12-1134 waiver and record a navigation disclosure statement, an infrastructure disclosure statement, a range disclosure statement, as well as a schedule for development disclosure statement. Also, the following schedule for development. Prior to development or within 10 years of approval by the Board of Supervisors, whichever occurs first, the filing and approval of a tentative map as a subdivision of parcel 198-10-002 into 6 or more lots shall be completed. Number 2, all required improvements, including the filing of final plat and posting of necessary assurances, to be submitted within 3 days of tentative map approval. Number 3, prior to development, in accordance with Yuma County Public Works Standards, Volume 1, Section 7.3, Guidelines for Traffic Studies, a traffic study, impact study shall be completed. Prior to development, all improvements required by the traffic study shall be constructed. That's item 4. And number 5, prior to development, an all-weather crossing shall be required across the Fortuna Watch and 40th Street crossing. Mr. Chairman, and now we'll continue with the other portion of the presentation with
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. Anson Lahosset, Senior Planner, presenting minor amendment case number 2206. This map depicts the various cases proposed within the area by the applicant. The case is highlighted in red. Kevin Dahl, agent for Granite Yuma LLC, requests to change the land use designation of a 5+ acre portion of a parcel, 25 gross acres in size, low density residential, to urban density residential, and the remaining 20+ portion to medium density residential. The property is located within the Foothills planning area at the southwest corner of the alignments of Avenue 14E and 40th Street. The intent is to accommodate the rezoning of the subject property from rural area 10-acre minimum to medium-density residential and high-density residential. This is the land use and vicinity map showing the subject parcel in crosshatch. The pink is urban density residential. There are adjoining and nearby parcels with this land use designation. This is an aerial image. Subject property is currently undeveloped desert. This is an image looking east from the end of pavement at 40th Street. The subject parcel is approximately 1/3 of a mile east of this point. This is an image looking northwest at the subject parcel from the southwest corner. Staff received one comment letter from a property owner in opposition. It stated that this should be a major amendment and had concerns over water and public safety. Comments from agencies will be presented in rezoning case number 22-24. Comments. Staff recommends approval of minor amendment case number 2206 based on the amendment is consistent with the existing character of the Foothills planning area. The amendment will be an overall improvement to the plan, since this will ensure development occurs in a coordinated, contiguous, and comprehensive manner. The amendment is in the character with existing land uses and supports policies of the plan to provide consistent land uses. This concludes the minor amendment portion of the case. The remainder of the proposed rezoning case, as they were applied for concurrently, and the parcel highlighted in red was in opposition. Rezoning case number 2224, request to rezone a 5+ acre portion of a parcel 25 gross acres in size from RA10 to R3 and R2. And the intent is to rezone the western 5-acre portion to R3 and the remaining 20 acres of the parcel to R2. This is the zoning and vicinity map, including the floodplain in blue. Subject parcel is in crosshatch. Parcels 13198-110-001 and 2 to the west, north, and northeast are zoned RA10. Parcel 5 to the east is zoned RVS. Parcel 900 directly east and southeast is zoned RVS and RA10 and is the alignment of 40th Street and Avenue 14E. And parcel 23 to the south is zoned RVS. All parcels within the zoning notification area are currently undeveloped. And this is an aerial image of the subject parcel and the surrounding area. This is a site plan submitted by the applicant. This is an image looking west from the southwest corner. This is an image looking east from the northeast corner of the subject parcel. Staff received one letter in opposition from a property owner within the zoning notification area. 4 letters from outside the zoning notification area were received, signed by 5 property owners in opposition. There were concerns over lack of information plans, compatibility of R2 and R3 zoning districts, infrastructure such as water, sewer, road conditions, traffic, public safety, and the parcel's location being near the Fortuna Wash. Arizona Department of Transportation provided the following comment, that the proposed development will lead to greater congestions and operational difficulties at the Foothills Boulevard traffic interchange along I-8 unless Yuma County builds an east-west connector road in the area. Marine Corps Air Station Yuma provided the following comment. The subject parcel is located 1.86 miles from the Barium Goldwater Range and requested an navigation range disclosure statements. Arizona Game and Fish Department provided the following comment. The project area is potential western burrowing owl habitat. The Arizona Game and Fish is recommending the implementation of best management practices for wildlife and their habitat that may be affected by the development. The full list of best management practices can be found on the attached document submitted by the Arizona Game and Fish Department, which accompanies the staff report. Staff recommends approval of rezoning case number 22-24, subject to the following performance condition. Within 60 days of Board of Supervisors approval, the owner agent shall provide an ARS 12-1134 waiver, record an navigation, infrastructure, range, and schedule for development disclosure statements, and schedule for development prior to development or within 10 years of approval by the Board of Supervisors, whichever occurs first, the filing and approval of a tentative map as a subdivision of parcel 728-08-002 into 6 or more lots shall be completed prior to development in accordance with the Yuma County Public Works Standards Volume 1, Section 7.3, Guidelines for Traffic Studies. A traffic impact study shall be completed. All improvements required by the traffic impact study shall be constructed. Prior to development, the owner shall dedicate 50 feet of right-of-way along County 12th Street and Avenue 14E. Prior to development, the owner shall construct an all-weather crossing across the Fortuna Wash and 40th Street crossing. Mr. Chairman, this concludes staff's presentation. The parcels in red are in opposition. Are there any questions for staff?
Any commissioners have questions for staff at this point?
Mr. Chairman, are all of these parcels contiguous at some point? Or are they just scattered all over Heckenbeck? It's very, very difficult to follow this. So they're all in that same area.
Chairman, all the parcels crosshatched that are on this map are the subject of these.
And how many total acres is that?
We can do that calculation if you want.
Yeah, there's so many, you know, all of those blue things are washes.
Right.
And that really means like that I want to put houses there, right? You know, it's confusing, very confusing in this format, and that's not the problem of staff, but for as commissioners to try and separate out each of these without having a contiguous map that shows how many spaces, how many people we're talking about, how many lots are we talking about.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has not provided a specific development plan as far as how these properties are going to be subdivided.
Right.
That will come during the planning phase.
It's always a difficult thing, right, when we get with rezoning requests, because we start looking for the development right away. And what we're dealing with tonight is only the rezoning. I suspect a lot of that wash area probably won't be able to be built in, so. But it's going to take a lot of money to design subdivisions around.
Correct, but the overlays and things that are in there, it indicates that they've already figured out how many lots there's going to be in the RV subdivision and how many,
Well, we'll hear from the applicant in a bit, I'm sure.
Okay.
But is there any other questions from commissioners to staff? Yes, Commissioner Rice.
It bothers me with a traffic study, without a traffic study. They're talking about a tremendous increase in traffic for that roadway and that frontage road. And they want the county to come up and put up the money on the interstate out there. And I feel like that ought to be part of their problem, not our taxpayer dollars.
We, again, we'll hear from the applicant shortly.
Again, Mr. Chairman, I believe that the rezoning cases have a condition that they will have to do a traffic impact
Right.
study
The
at the time
rezoning
of
cases.
development.
They have agreed to those conditions, right?
Yes.
We can't see the traffic study until after we approve this.
Mr. Chairman, normally the traffic study comes at the planning phase or prior to the planning phase. For rezoning cases, depending on the size and the number of lots, the traffic study is never submitted at the time of the rezoning application submittal.
Yeah, you need to know the exact planned units before the traffic study is
Correct.
done. So any other questions of commissioners of staff at this point?
Commissioner, Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes.
And just for clarification, on the rezoning, we as commissioners, we can't still, until they do the development, know if they're going to split this up into 5, 20, 10-acre parcels or minimum lots. I mean, that's why we can't see the traffic study or the development, because this is nowhere near that yet. That would be, if it gets zoned, then they would have to bring up a plan to show what they're trying to do, whether it's 1 lot, 3 lots, or 20 lots. That's when that would come into.
Or 5,000.
Or 5,000, yeah. But again, that's a whole different meeting, and that's a whole different process. Notifications to everybody around there and so forth.
Right.
Right now, it's just the zoning part, not that it's being built.
There is a hunger for additional information always when we just deal with the rezoning issue.
Mr. Chairman, there are 2 more cases that still need to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's,
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Juan Leal Rubio, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. I will be presenting minor amendment case number 2207 and rezoning case 2225. As you can see on this map, crosshatch and in red is what I'll be presenting today. And the request here is to change the land use designation of a 7.93 acre portion of a parcel, 152 acres in size, gross acres in size, from mixed-use residential to regional and commercial. And this is to accommodate the rezoning of the property from RA10 to C2. This minor amendment is specific to, this is the entire property, but this is specific to the crosshatch portion of the property that is currently designated mixed-use residential. So this minor amendment is only for that little piece of property, that little portion of the property. The remaining is already designated to accommodate the rezoning that they will be requesting. This is the aerial imagery that shows the subject property. As you can see, development to the north, RV parks. To the west, you see single-family residence with zoning that mimics what's being proposed on this project. The correspondence that we received, the same as received from on the other cases from ADOT and from the Arizona Game and Fish Department. The staff is recommending approval of this minor amendment because the amendment is consistent with the existing character of the foothills planning area, because the amendment will be an overall improvement to the plan, since this will ensure development occurs in a coordinated, contiguous, and comprehensive manner, and because the amendment is in character with the existing land uses and supports policies of the plan to provide consistent land uses. And I'll be presenting the rezoning case. The rezoning case is to rezone a 128.36 acre portion of a parcel, which is 152.91 acres in size, from RA10 to RVS, a 14.15 acre portion to high density residential, and a 7.93 acre portion to C2. That is the C2 is the portion that is being handled through the minor amendment. And this is to develop a mixture of residential, multifamily housing, and general commercial uses. This is the vicinity map that was prepared by staff that shows, again, the portion that is being rezoned to R3, the portion that is being rezoned to C2, and the portion that is being rezoned to RVS. As you can see to the west, to the north is the frontage road. Immediately to the west is property zone C2, and I believe there's some mining activity taking place on that property. There's also a portion that is zone RA10, that currently vacant, open desert, and mostly within the wash. Also, further west, we have parcels that are within the Desert Foothills Estate subdivision that are zoned R120. And to the south, we have properties that are zoned RA10 that are currently open desert, And the one that you see below is my colleague presented that case before me, minor amendment 2206, rezoning 2224. And to the east, we have a property that is currently in desert, zone RA10, and that's the one that Javier, my colleague, presented, MA 2205, rezoning case 2222. This is a picture that I took looking south at the suburb property from the frontage road. This is looking north from the suburb property. You can see the RV parks, and the interstate, the mountains. The same comments that were received from the previous cases, we received on this case. I believe Javier's got a little more opposition than our cases. But I personally, on these cases, did not receive any opposition. The conditions, we are recommending approval on this rezoning case. The same conditions that were listed on the other cases, that they provide, within 60 days of board approval, they provide the disclosure statements and waivers that are listed on the slide. And also the same schedule for development that was presented with the rezoning case that Javier presented, rezoning 2222, which is that within 10 years of board approval, they'll have to file a tentative plat map as a subdivision of a parcel of 198-10001 into 6 or more lots shall be completed. And then the traffic study and then all the improvements required by the traffic study shall be constructed. And that they provide, that prior to development, they provide an all-weather crossing across the Fortuna Wash and 40th Street crossings. And that concludes staff's presentation. Before I proceed, on the first rezoning case, rezoning 2222, which is the case that Javier presented, staff would like to make some changes to the conditions. The condition that number 2 be eliminated. We don't need that because that's part of the, it's already part of the subdivision regulations, so it's repetitive. We don't need to have it on here. And then also we could move number 4 to be included with number 3. So in essence, we would eliminate number 4 and make it part of number 3. So on any recommendations, that's where the staff is recommending.
So if we say, as per staff recommendations, we're accepting the new terms of those recommendations that were just read into the record.
Yes, sir.
Understand. Any commissioners have questions of staff at this point?
Just
Commissioner McDermott.
whether we had a total number of acreages here that we're trying to rezone all at once.
Was staff able to total that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you refer to the map that's on the screen right now, there is approximately 15.87 acres that is proposed to be rezoned to general commercial, C2. Approximately 19 acres proposed to be rezoned to high-density residential, R3. 20 acres that is proposed to be rezoned to medium-density residential, R2. And 411 acres that is proposed to be rezoned to recreational vehicle subdivision, RVS.
Any other questions from commissioners to staff? If not, the applicant is in the room. Would the applicant like to come and share with us at this point?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners. I'm Kevin Dahl with Dahl Robbins and Associates, 1560 South Fifth Avenue. We are, our firm is representing the ownership of this property. And there's some question about who owns this property. So this property has been owned for 40 plus years by the same people. They paid taxes for those 40 years, and they feel now is the time to start developing it. So it's not a new developer. It's the same owner for the 40 plus years. So we talked about the general plan a little bit. General plan was developed probably in the 90s. Probably hasn't changed much over the years. So whenever we do a plan, we try to do the best we can as a community come up with the uses that are needed for the community. So currently, with this plan, with these requests, we feel the need to change the minor amendment, the plan by minor amendments for adding some medium density and some high density. I don't know if you realize, but there is 0 apartments in the foothills, 0. So if you're single, going to college, if you're single, going to YPG to work, if you can't afford a house, there is no opportunities, and you want to live in the foothills, there is 0 opportunity to rent a apartment. So we feel it's very important to add this to the component of the plan. And the location chosen was chosen to try to minimize the impact from other properties. Just so you know, it wasn't just put in there, it was thought about. The key components to this property, we're not developing ag land. We're finally not bumping up against, we're finally not bumping against the military. So those 2 components ought to make a couple people happy in this room.
Maybe.
But we always are bumping up against them, so we're 2 miles away from them. So the housing demand in Yuma in general, and I say Yuma, I mean city of Yuma and the county of Yuma. They're looking for more opportunities for workforce housing. And that workforce housing includes this change in land use to the medium and high density. This property is being looked at to being developed currently because there's a demand for housing. Yuma is shortage of housing. Believe it or not, with all the land Yuma has, we are running out of land to develop for single-family residential homes. It's finite. Until the state opens up some land, the valley there's lines in the sand of the valley. We have protection on the base. There's just not a lot of land left. So makes this opportunity for development even better. So again, we're suggesting to change the minor plan to update the plan. I think you guys are trying to update the plan right now, but in the process of maybe doing a study for housing needs. I think that's what you're doing. So we chose RVS as a zone, thinking that the RVS zone would be the least offensive zone. It is compatible with Las Barrancas. It's compatible with the ravines further south. In fact, it's compatible with the majority of the zoning in the foothills, from 12E to 15E, from the South Frontage Road to the range. And there's pockets of other zonings, but if you look at a map, and maybe the staff can bring it up, but it's primarily RVS zoning. So I am certainly surprised at the number of neighborhood here. We are trying to be good neighbors. I certainly didn't expect to raise this much concern. On that point, though, every one of the neighbors' concerns, every one of them, every one of their concerns had to be dealt with on Las Barrancas and the ravines. Every one of them. The flood, the water, the sewer, the night sky, the environmental, the zoning. Every one of the concerns that are brought up in the opposition, which again, we didn't expect this much, had to be dealt with. So we're dealing with it the best we can, right? So the first step is zoning. And we have a total area of zoning of 467, if I did my math right. I don't know if that adds up to what staff had said, but it should be close of this, and it's all contiguous. All the property is contiguous. So tonight we're talking about planning issues. We're not talking about engineering issues. We're not going to fix the flooding. We're not going to fix the traffic. We're not going to fix any of that stuff until we get to the engineering issues. This is a planning component. We can't get to the next step. And I've said this before many times. We can't get to the next step until we get it zoned. Zoning is the first step. And in that process, we will do a traffic study, as it's in the staff report. And that study is based on the ITE for different uses of zonings. So there is no site plan. We do not have a site plan. We will not have a site plan. We will have generalities. And if those generalities are different at the time of development, staff's very good about coming back and saying, hey, you didn't address this in your study, address it. So there's no way of missing anything. So I'm saying is that, so we will do the best we can in developing a study that will be supported by the county. So these properties scored very well in the staff report. 2 of them are 290 and 1 is 285. That's excellent scoring. So as a planning process, as a planning, looking at this property, it's a good plan. Obviously, it's a good plan, or we wouldn't have scored as high as we scored. So again, we're trying to address the needs of the community, and we certainly are not expecting to upset so many people. We're certainly not trying to do that. And we didn't think we would with the same zone. Las Barrancas and the ravines are zoned RVS. So this plan allows the housing opportunities, and it also allows for commercial. And I think there was some concern in some of the letters that said that they're short of commercial, they're short of shopping, they're short of opportunities. And Las Barrancas saw that need. Las Barrancas reserved area on the east side for commercial. It's not developed yet, but if they brought the plan, you'd see that the eastern 5 pads, maybe, or 4 or 5 pads is zoned commercial for future development. So they saw the need, just like we see the need. So, this is the first action in many, many, many steps. There's several years of work here to move forward, several years. First, after this, if this is all approved by the commission and the board, the traffic study would be enacted. We would do a traffic study. This property is not going to develop overnight. There's no way to develop 500 acres of property overnight. This is a 20, 30-year plan, minimum, if not longer. It just is. Based on, and it's driven by the market. If the market changes, it may change some, but we've had some pretty good markets here lately. And land is not developed at the rate at this big a parcel. Las Barrancas, so not only is this property, but Las Barrancas has an additional 114 acres of property to develop to the west. There's future phases coming on Las Barrancas. So the development of Las Barrancas isn't done yet. They're still moving forward. In fact, I think you just approved one recently. So the performance conditions and the schedule for development are all acceptable to the developer, to the owner. And again, we certainly didn't expect to upset as many people. We are not, that's not the intention. Obviously, it's not the intention. And hopefully we can dismiss some of their concerns. There is a finite amount of property in Yuma. This is in the general plan. It's not open space. It's in the general plan as development. So this developer, this owner, has property rights just like Las Barrancas had property rights. Las Barrancas developer developed lots. All these fine folks live in those lots, or a lot of them do. So there's opportunity for more people to live out there. There's no planning reason why we're following the general plan. We're tweaking it slightly to address some what we think are needs. And with that, I guess if you have any questions.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Van Noy.
Why don't you do the audience a favor and just kind of give maybe a little bit of your intentions as far as people see RVS and they think you're going to throw a shack out there. You know what I mean? We know what your intentions are as far as building. Just give a little bit of maybe of what your thought process, what the owner's thought process in the future of, putting a nice Barranca-style site-built home out there on an RVS lot, or whatever your thoughts are.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not at liberty to say what the plan is. We're not at that stage. Well, nobody would be. Nobody would be.
And that's the concern.
But so you got to get to the. So there's other, Mr. Chairman, there's other processes that have to be gone forward. This is the first step. This doesn't allow the owner to do anything other than to move to the next step.
Mr. McDermott.
Yeah, basically, okay, so with your explanation, this is all speculative rezoning, hoping that you'll hit the market somewhere, whether it's industrial or the commercial or RVS or whatever. And I guess that's pretty much what I have to say. If there is a plan, and it would seem to garner support, it would be nice to know what it was. I really have a problem with speculative rezoning. That's a chunk of ground with a lot of problems, and like you say, it's a 20, 30-year project. Why are we doing it all at once? Is there actual work that's going to be done, or are we going to rezone it and watch it sit for another 30 years?
So, Mr. Chairman, I guess I would answer that. Las Barrancas was a development that zoned RVS. You have to start someplace. You have to start from a base. And so I would say the current market is for stick-built homes, nice stick-built homes. That's the market, and that's what's probably the intention. But I'm saying no developer with any experience is going to say, this is what I'm going to do. This is the plan I want to lay out, and this is what I'm going to do. It could change over the years. But the RVS zoning is in place for that change to allow. And again, the next step here eventually would be a 10 of the plat. That 10 of the plat will show the size of the lot, the layout of the roads, how you handle stormwater, how you handle traffic, all the issues. It shows you how you do everything, but it's not going to be 500 acres of development at one time. It may be 20 acres. It may be just like Las Barrancas did, the first phase, starting on the east side, working west. So no developer is going to start developing property if they don't have assurance they have the zoning. That's just standard developing. You don't buy property and not zone it. You zone it so you can develop it.
Does other commissioners have questions of the applicant? I mean, it seems that we struggle with this, even as commissioners, we struggle when we do a rezoning because we have this hunger for wanting to know what's coming next. But in reality, I think we come back to this feeling that RVS zoning fits in the foothills area. That's what it is, RVS zoning for most of it. I too would like to know. I mean, I hope there's some manufactured housing in there, but I'll take that back. I'll take that back. But that would be kind of unfair for me to say that. But I understand why the audience is here with concern, because when you see 500 acres, it's different than a 20-acre parcel. But I agree with you that the zoning is the first stage, and no developer can lay out what they're going to do 15 years from now. And if the zoning's compatible, and I point also to the scores, that scores of 285 and 290 is 300's the max you can get for compatible use of land and zoning of the property. So I know we're going to hear a lot of concerns tonight. I just want to make sure that the audience understands the Planning and Zoning Commission is here with a job to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. We make that recommendation without political influence. We make it based on the zoning compatibility of the project to the area that's being requested to be rezoned. The score goes a long way with that. Now, there could be political things that enter in, but that's taken in effect at the Board of Supervisors level and not at the Planning and Zoning Commission level. So we want to hear what everyone has to say. Just need to know what the rules are for us, is that we have to decide if this is a good use of land and if it meets the county's requirements for the zoning category that's being requested. So with that, does anyone else have questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chair, just also to add to that, to remind the audience as well, that zoning doesn't mean that they're gonna start building. Zoning is just for the land use. From there, there's, like the applicant mentioned, there still has to be a whole different process, tentative maps, suggestions, and that could take years and so on forth. I know I've served on this board a lot, and a lot of the people, when I talk to them afterwards, they think that when they get the zoning, it means that they're gonna start building once it gets approved. That is not the case. This is just zoning for the land use for the area, which Foothills in general was zoned in hundreds of acres at a time, and it took 20, 25 years for it to be zoned. I wish I knew the date for Barrancas. I mean, that was a subdivision that was zoned also many years past, and then it started being developed in phases again. It is not something that by being zoned, you're gonna start seeing construction. So sometimes there is a confusion on the terminology, and when you get these notices, my dad last week got a letter for zoning too, and he called me right away. Dad, it's just the zoning, not the building part of it. So yeah, just iterate that.
Yes, it does create the hunger, and so we all suffer from that. Anything else you would like to add?
Chairman, I just have a few more points. So just to continue along with why a person's zoned. So if you go back to the Ravines property, the Ravines property is immediately south of Las Barrancas, and it goes south to, I think it's 40th Street, 44th Street, 48th Street, I'm not sure, whatever street, half a mile above. That property was all zoned at one chunk. Very large property. It's just the way it's done. So there shouldn't be any scare in that. And that is being developed in units. And Unit 1 is under construction. It's been under construction for 15 years, quite a while. It changed ownership in there. It went through a bad time in our community or in our economy. So, and also, this property has been owned for so long, there was no zoning on it when he bought it. The zoning didn't start showing up in the county until, what, mid-'80s?
1975.
Well, the zoning out here wasn't there, though. They bought it without any zoning. So the zoning was placed at some point. Again, we have to research that and figure that out. This developer, owner, has been a good neighbor to the county. The county was experiencing some overflowing stormwater on 15E. They approached me, and I approached the ownership. They dedicated property. The county went in and put in additional pipes to alleviate the flooding at no cost. He dedicated the land to the county at no cost. So it shows his willingness to work with the community. It shows his willingness to further along this process and make our community better. Trying to be good neighbors. We're not trying to be adversarial. We just certainly can't do certain things at this time until we get there. I just want everybody to be clear on that. We're not hiding anything. Las Barrancas zoned RVS. They had no plan. That all developed with the intent of the plat. So it all comes in time. So with that, thank you so much for your time.
We need you. We'll call you back up again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, this is a public hearing, and we will open the public meeting portion of the meeting now. How many speakers do we have? How many people are going to want to speak? Yeah, so that we may not have to put the 3-minute clock on. We will.
Be sure.
At the library.
You can run it, and we can
Since you-
start. But let's see how it goes, because I mean, if you agree with the last speaker, you can just say we agree with the last speaker on these points. I mean, we don't have to do it all again, but we do want to hear all the points. There is another room of people, and we'll be calling them over when they get ready. I guess we'll see how many again. Let's see how many we got speakers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 10 or 11 over here. So when we get to number 8, you'll want to start getting those guys ready over there. All right, so you're going to turn on? Yeah, turn it on in case we need to.
We need to have some kind of fashion as far as who we're going to start with, so they don't bum rush the. Start from the left and move to the right. You know
Yeah,
what I
we'll
mean?
start for the front on my left side. The front, my left side. First speaker, come up. And set all the clocks, set them all at 2 minutes, okay? And that way they give them a time warning. Oh, it's not working. See, we don't ever use it. It don't even work.
That's great news for me.
I'll just start counting. 1, 2.
I'll do a 2-minute timer, okay?
I planned for 3, so might go over. Anyway, my name's Aaron Selly. I'm actually the adjacent property owner. I like that map's up there. So I am the owner of the property that kind of looks like a triangle at the very southwestern border of MA 2206 and the rezoning application. Parcel number 72807-001. We purchased the first 14 acres, which were west on that mark, and then we purchased the 10 acres next to it. And instead of trying to break it apart, we are trying to keep the foothills the way it is. I've been riding out there and enjoying the desert the way it is since I was a young man. And I remember when there was an Ox airfield out there that is now kind of Walmart and developed, and when Foothills Boulevard was like a pounded gravel road. Clearly, we are making progress, and there are a lot more year-round residents and a lot more people involved in the Yuma economy than there were back then, which is great. I like a lot of what Kevin had to say. I've worked well with him and his firm to get my property surveyed and zoned, or surveyed and figured out a plan. As you can tell, the only area that's not flood zone basically in my property is that upper northeastern corner. As such, that's where we were planning on putting our house. We're looking for an ag waiver and basically going to put one house on all 25 acres, as well as the property south of us that's owned by Zach Black, and he is also doing agriculture out there as well. We're trying to bring ag back to the foothills and leave an area open for the community to visit. Some of the things that concerned me are just the density. All right, I grew up with a dad who worked construction, so I understand that things have to grow and we need places to put people. My issue here is the R2 and R3 density. We don't have anything like that in the foothills, and it's not keeping with what we moved out there for. All right, this is not an urban area. This is a rural type of environment, and we're trying to keep it that way. Flood zone. I'm going to try and hurry since you put me
I put you
in.
at 3. I did 3 minutes.
Some of the things that are my concern, and I know he spoke that it's not going to happen yet because we're not far enough along, but as Los Barrancas shrunk the size of the washes down when they had their water and flood study done, it has had long-lasting repercussions on the county and how they deal with the flood waters out there. Now, those of us that have been here for years know that that wash is that wide for a reason. It happens. So when you look at the size of the Los Barrancas ones, when they changed it and moved it to about a 4-foot wide ditch, it changed a lot out there in the foothills how the water ran and what we do with it. Okay? I would urge the commission to really consider what it's going to do long-term out there to have that kind of density. All right? Also, part of the recommendations that came from the staff is that they build a bridge across from 40th Street, across the wash, and into the western boundary of that parcel. That's property I own. Okay? That's not a road I want to see continue. We enjoy having the ability that that's shut off and people can walk out there and enjoy the facilities as they sit and intend to keep it that way. There is no easement across the northern boundary of my property. Sorry.
See, that scared me.
There's no easement across the northern boundary of my property, nor would I like to give them one. So that means they would have to come in from the east off of 15, or they would have to take 44th Street and construct an entirely new section, which would be 14E. My last point is I think with the information that was provided, it's premature to approve this. Sending it back like you did the Martinez Lake process so that we as neighbors can be on the side of the developer is I think what we all want to see. Nobody is under the false impression that that's going to be designated open space or open land. Okay, we didn't buy it all. It belongs to somebody. They have the right to develop it. I just ask that you keep it in connection with the RVS we already have. I'm specifically talking about the R2, R3 designation in that 25-acre parcel. Adding it to the commercial area or up near the main frontage road so it's easier to access apartments, I think is more reasonable. We already have a highly stressed infrastructure, road system, and everything else out there. It'd be better to fix that first so we can all be on board with moving more people out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker. Next speaker, on the left, who's next? Yes, come on forward. And you might, who else is speaking on the left-hand side? Yeah, so just see where the hands are, so the next hand will follow her, so we don't have to go through the time. We want to use this time hearing you as opposed to waiting for you to come up. So if you can be up and ready to go. Yes, ma'am.
This is my first time here. My name is Paula Gage, Gage. I live at 11484 South Ironwood Drive. There are a couple of things that I would like to, I've been coming here for 40 years. I've been a homeowner for 20 years. I've lived here permanently for 13 years. So I've seen a lot going on in the area. One thing that bothers me is that once you rezone something, what are the chances of zoning it back? Once it's done, it's over. You only say that you have a couple of comments from the people. I think if you use the media, or if the media is used to say, this is what's going to be proposed for the site, that you'll get a lot of responses, not just the 60 that we turned in, 2 of us turned in today. Merriam-Webster's definition of due diligence is the care that a reasonable person exercises to avoid harm to other persons or their property. In business, research and analysis of a company or organization done in preparation for a business transaction. I think that in this case, it's more important to do due diligence before approving rezoning. There are too many things that are at risk. As mentioned before, the traffic study. I don't think that increasing a road that goes basically to a dead end and back again is going to solve the problem. I don't know if there's ever been talk about putting an exit 15 off of the freeway. It would mean relocating the checkpoint station. There are positive and negative effects of commercial building. I know that there's stated that we need commercial. We have a lot of commercial property on Foothills and Fortuna that's vacant. I'm a big proponent of reuse. Why do we have to build something new? That is convenient for everybody, but so many businesses have keep going out of business. What's to guarantee that the businesses that are going to go in down there don't end up closed? There hasn't been really any talk about pre-studies like crime study. What happens when you have multi-family dwellings, apartments, when you have RV lots? If you have, let's say, no plan as to what you're going to do with a 400, was it 400 acres? How many RVs can you put on that if it's turned into an RV park? Who owns the land? No one said who owns the land. What's the history of the person that's owned the land? Have they been in business before? Have they had businesses before? Have they been successful? It's an LLC. I have personally dealt with an LLC that I'm in foreclosure with. LLCs are easy to change and get out of. What else do I have? There's no upfront money. There's no investment by the owners. Las Barracas, to me, is not the bar to measure to. It's just another development, as with some of the others. Yuma can only grow so much. It was built as a small town. If you go downtown, my husband was in a motorcycle accident because they widened the streets.
We're going to ask you to
Okay.
to not go into new subjects. You can
Okay.
finish up. We
I
don't
was
want you
just
to
going to say,
cut and
because the
run.
streets have been expanded, but the building, okay, I'll go to something different than that. But Yuma was built as
You
a small
missed
town.
my point.
Okay.
The alarm went off. You need to be wrapping up.
But I thought, okay, let's see, what else do I have here? Main thing I want is crime studies, traffic studies done before rezoning is approved.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, come forward.
Chairman, my name is Paul Kalmar again, 12408 South Linda Avenue, Yuma. And I'm going to comment from a unique perspective. I'm a retired police chief with 30 years of service in Kansas. And I had an opportunity to talk to a deputy the other day that covers this area that we were talking about. There are not one, only 2 deputies from the Yuma city limits to as far as you can see. One is switched from that limit to the foothills. The other one is across the mountains. 2 deputies for that entire area. That is sad. I'm surprised that there's only 2. The other concern I have is for water. I know that we're getting really low on water in this entire country. Where are we going to get the water to support this development? That's one of the most important things. Traffic, we've already talked about that, so I'll skip that. I know for a fact, I have some friends that live in that area, and they have a non-functional, or at least a very non-functional sewer system that smells up the entire neighborhood. They can't even use their backyard. Some of us are having trouble understanding the differences between some of your density things, like RVS and medium density, high density. I'm presuming that high density is apartments or townhouses or something like that. And medium density would be what, like RV spots or something like that? Or I'm just asking questions.
We could ask staff in medium density.
What's medium density?
Would direct your comments.
What would that be?
Direct your comments to the chairman and
Oh,
I'll
okay, I'm
direct
sorry.
them to
What
the
would,
staff.
what would the requirement be for medium density?
Medium density would fit what kind of development?
Mr. Chairman, medium density residential allows single-family site-built homes or multifamily housing, such as duplexes.
Okay.
Duplexes.
Thank you. The last concern I'd like to bring up is noise pollution, dogs, vehicles, chickens, whatever you might want. Where I live, there's chickens, they squawk all the time, but that's okay, that's understandable. Wildlife, who's gonna protect the wildlife that we are getting less and less of as time goes on with development? And I thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next speaker.
Good evening.
Hi.
Robert Robinson, 13405 East 43rd Street. I'm a very new resident of the Yuma Foothills. I have a very different perspective probably than a lot of you because I just came here from Western Washington and that's what I'm trying to get away from. I don't want to see Western Washington and Yuma and the apartments and the high density and the overcrowding with the lack of roadways. The problem that I have with, we'll change the zoning and then we'll look at what our traffic management is and everything else. Once the zoning's done, the cat's out of the bag. It's really hard to put it back in. I'd like you to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is Jill Grouse, and I live at 12101 South Ironwood. And I'd like to point out that our property is directly affected by every one of these things in that the bridge or the all-water access would be in my backyard. It's on my property line. So as he pointed out, that he's our neighbor, he's to the back of us, that directly impacts us, and we were never notified on any of these from the county, though in every one of their proposals said that they should build a bridge there. So I just wanted to make that apparent that I don't feel like all the neighbors who are going to be impacted have been notified. And secondly, everybody was referencing Las Broncas, which is this size, and we're doing this.
We'll need you back at the microphone, though.
So that was just, the scale is so much larger than Las Broncas, but yet we feel like we need to do all this at once. That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker, please.
Liquor store lady.
Hi, my name's Pauline Burke. It's 12269 South Ironwood Drive. Aaron, can you help me for a minute? Can you show them where my 40th Street, where it is? Because I get confused with them.
This is 40th Street.
Okay, so I live here. Okay, you guys have an okay, so let me explain something. I married a gentleman that actually had bought the dirt where he lives at on Ironwood. And I guess there was house already developed. And him and his, not me, but the other woman in his life, what do you call it when you come up with the plans and you built your house and all that. So they brought a bunch of dirt in, they brought the house up, they built the house, then they got divorced, and then we got married. Now, one of the things he told me is we could go get a new house, or we can stay where we're at. So he said, if we put a swimming pool in the backyard, we're staying, we're not moving. That's it, we're done. Well, guess what? We got the pool in the backyard. We have $1 million back view, literally. All we see in the backyard was nothing but desert and the mountain view. That's what we had. And then, what's that, Baracas or whatever came in. And now you see their roofs of their houses and everything. They, you know, the glare of the sun, you can see it now, which we didn't see it before. Okay, so, which is fine, because we don't own the land. My problem I have is because we paid $105,000 for a swimming pool, and when my kids call it Burke Paradise. And we throw parties, and even for seniors, the kids, when they come down, my daughter went to school here in Yuma High. My question is, I can't move, I already know, because I said, okay, we got the pool. And I know I don't own the land, and I agree, taxes are awesome, don't get me wrong. You pay taxes, you know, cities can build roads and everything. The only thing we're missing in the foothills is a park. Ask anybody, where can you go to a park in the foothills? There is no park out there. My question is, I'm looking at that amount of property, and Kevin was talking about, I think it's his friend that he's representing today. My question is, they've owned it for 40 years. I've gotten to the point right now that I want to cry because I don't know what I can do to stop this, because I don't own the property. So I was going to tell Kevin that I would make an offer that we would pay the 40 years of taxes they paid, if that's how long they owned it, so we can own it and build a park out there. I don't want to build anything on it. I just want to leave it blank. But I don't even know what 40 years of taxes is either, guys. So my husband might kill me when I get back over there. But I just want to let you guys know, really, just consider it. I know it's really easy when you're not, it's not your backyard. I mean, we found out Aaron and Nicole are our neighbors now in our backyard, which we didn't know that was going to happen, but it happened. We accepted them. Hopefully they're not going to have 12 kids or anything like that. But we got chickens. I can handle the roosters, another problem. But anyways, just want to let you guys know. No, I don't have a problem. I know people need to live someplace, and I know that they need a place to live. But I was told years ago that the foothills, and I don't know if you guys heard this, it was a community for the 55 and older senior citizens. Well, guess what? A lot of them passed away, the kids inherited it, and now there's children out there. The other thing is, is there going to be a school out there? Because if you put a bunch of family homes, I'm assuming you're going to need another school out there. That's my other concern.
Thank you for sharing with us. Next speaker. Anyone else on the left-hand side? Who's first on the right-hand side? Yes, sir.
My name is Walt Bonneau. I live at 14698 East 40th Place in the Los Barrancas development. A couple things. We actually put a series of 4 points together that we submitted to the senior planner, and I hope that you have those or have had a chance to review those. First things, when you look at that plot right there and you look at that water flow, and I understand what the civil engineer had to say. I'm an engineer, I'm not a civil engineer, but I understand math, I understand water flow, I understand volume, and all the rest of it. I want to make one point. That by FEMA and Arizona Water Management lists this as A023 with a velocity of 7 feet per second, which means 5 mile an hour water flow. Now, I don't know if any of you know what 5 mile an hour water flow is, but trust me, your car won't be there very long, okay? And at 2 to 3 feet of depth. I happen to live right there in that edge of that blue where that one little wash feeds into 40th Street. One of the other speakers will talk more about this, so I won't spend much time on it. We have seen 40th Street, a raging river. We have seen 42nd Place, a raging river. And that's with the infrastructure that's there today. All 3 homes along the wash at the end have lost parts of their landscape. Now, that water gets impeded at all, it's going to be disastrous for those homes, because we've seen that wash, which is 50 wide and 5 deep, filled and water pouring over onto 40th Street. The culverts they put in on 15E, good luck. We're waiting for those to wash out because they will. There's just not adequate flow. That is a massive river when those floods come, and we have seen that ground literally turn into a lake. So I don't know what they mean by buildability, but I can't see why you would want to change the density. Second thing, desert wildlife. That path is the only remaining migration path for literally what is a Yuma Zoo out there that goes up into the Gila Mountains and back. And we see it every day. And there's at least 24 different types of animals that are traversing that area and migrating back and forth. That's the end of the open space in this end of the foothills. This is it. The next thing we wanted to point out, and we're not saying this is going to be an RV park or such a thing. However, just to make a point here for Yuma planning, Yuma County planning, we have 14 RV parks, 14 in the foothills. We have plenty of low-cost housing in terms of manufactured homes that people rent all the time. We don't need apartments to compensate for that. We have plenty of rentals. The last piece I want to put out is infrastructure. Just a quick statement on infrastructure. We are maxed out. We have one grocery store for tens of thousands of people, and good luck shopping there if you can find product on the shelf. Our gas stations are maxed out. You try to get a Starbucks, you might as well plan for 35 minutes in the wait line. Our road system is bogging down. So we understand, and we know that Elliott Homes is planning to extend Las Broncas, which, okay, fine. But if you start taking that piece of property that is literally a floodplain and you start adding more houses to it, we are going to have even more severe stress on the infrastructure. And I won't copy on this too much because one gentleman already said it, but you ought to smell the sewer system when the west winds come in the foothills. We have a problem. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And next speaker, come on forward.
My name's Bobby Small. I live on 14674 East 40th, so I live in Las Broncas. Well, the first thing I wanted to talk about is Avenue 15E, which is the gateway to the proposed development in that R222-22. And we have a road out there, Avenue 15E, which was well engineered. It's been out there for a long time. We've got culverts in there. The foundation of the road was excellent. However, a couple of years ago, the rains came. The debris came. We had weeds and limbs and trash and branches and everything else that you can imagine that grows in that desert and then dies in that desert. And then the winds come, and it all washes down into these culverts. Well, the last time this happened a couple of years ago, 3 sections of the road of Avenue 15E were washed out completely. You could drive along the pavement and there was a 4-foot drop in 3 different sections. So we couldn't get the sheriff to come out or any medical, fire emergency services. They had to go all the way around. And this lasted for a week or two until they finally got the roads built back up. They did a great job. Well, unfortunately, it rained again. A few weeks later, it rained again, and it all washed out again. So we were kind of isolated out there for the second time. Now, some of the problems, I got some dandy photos here, but I don't know how to show them. This is a picture of a culvert, and it's clogged.
It's not going to call.
With weeds. And what happens is nobody takes care of this. And so when there's rain and these clog, the waters go over the top, they take out these roads, And it requires constant maintenance, and I really don't know who's responsible for it, but if it's not taken care of, the water can't get through, and I don't know if we're supposed to pay for it, if the homeowner pays for it, but unfortunately, when this does happen, then we lose our landscaping because the water rises. Now, when this particular thing happened, it went all the way up and went over the roads that were in Las Barrancas, let alone 15E. So they replaced the culverts, and there's not one culvert. There's a 3-foot culvert, and there's 3 of them. So that's 9 feet. Well, there's 8 different areas where these culverts are installed. But when it rains, it goes right over the top of them. Now, I've got some really dandy pictures here, but I really don't know how I can show it, but I'll try. This is...
Did you hear your timer? Sir, did you hear the timer? The timer went off, so we need to wrap
how
up.
long?
Oh,
How much time did I use up?
3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes, huh? Okay, well, can I summarize?
Summarize.
All right. Any infrastructure, in other words, water, gas, sewage, et cetera, that's done out here in this flood zone is probably going to be taken out in a few minutes, because the floods come up 2 to 3 feet high. They travel at 7 feet per second, which means if your lovely grandson or daughter or whatever, or your dog falls in there, in 2 seconds, they're 15 feet away from you. You'll never catch them, and that'll wash a car out. Doggone it, I should have said some more stuff.
You did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Next speaker.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Ann O'Leary, 14730 East 40th. I live in Las Barrancas, lower right-hand side, where all that blue water is. I'm here representing not only my husband, who's disabled and isn't here, but dozens and dozens of homeowners that are either working and couldn't take off and be here by 5 o'clock and get a seat, or they're seniors, they don't drive at night, or they're disabled. So the fact that there were only, 100 objections, I'm sure there's many more based on the homeowners that we've spoken with. We are incensed, frustrated that with all that blue water and floodplain and the examples that have already been given, that there's going to be rezoning. And I certainly understand the owner's agent when he said that this property owner has property rights. You're absolutely right, for R10. That's where a majority of that blue water is, which is lower density than what he's suggesting. I'd like to bring up, nobody tonight that I heard of brought up this 2030 comprehensive plan that is on the agenda, and that a lot of you, on page 2, I pulled it down from the internet. It is comprehensive. It's 221 pages. The 2020 plan was over 300 pages. We've been reading it. We read it last year when this came up, and we're a little frustrated in that so much time and effort went into this. I mean, we're talking about 500 pages, now 221. Page 78 is what I'd really like to redirect you to. It's titled Foothills Planning Area Policies and Priorities. Based on our reading and our understanding, 9 out of 13 of your plan and policies and procedures for the foothills development are being violated by this proposal, by these proposals. It's too much. I have the 9 circled. I'd love to go over it, but with my 3 minutes, I'll ask you to, and perhaps table this for the next meeting or meetings down the road, break it up so that it's not so ominous and that homeowners can understand. I want to tack on to the water and floodplain. County engineers, county planners have misunderstood the flood and of 15E and of the foothills. Why do I say that? The road's been washed out twice. We have a 3rd road up there now, and we're just talking in the last few years. Las Barrancas flood channels have been battered around. They are not effective. There's 3 homeowners here that are talking about the The floods back up in those channels that are not 4 feet wide. They're 20 and 30 feet wide or 50 feet wide, depending on where you're looking. And other homeowners within Las Barrancas have water flooding issues within inches of their home. Absolutely takes out property. You don't hear about the property damage because this is a quiet community that cleans up after themselves. I doubt that the county that there's been any complaint about that. So if you're looking at Las Barrancas and to the east or to the west, RVS Las Barrancas, Elliott owns that property. If you add that development, you still have issues with the flooding. All of that floods out to the highlighted area. Final comment, it's a Delaware corporation. I looked on the Arizona Corporation Commission. They're not even registered to do business in the state of Arizona. So I would love, a woman 6 people ago asked about due diligence. Please do the due diligence, get the agent back and answer some of these questions so that homeowners, this is a fraction who's mad. He was upset and surprised by how many people are here. Hundreds more could not come. Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please.
That piece.
So who's the next speaker on this side? Okay, well, there's Mr. Wade and then, okay.
Chairman?
My name is Ross Wade. Address is 11763 East Via Canada. Anyway, in regards to this project, I'm the original developer of Yuma East. I came here 46 years ago, bought 620 acres there south of I-8, and I'm still there developing it. There are about 14 subdivisions in there. I went to Yuma County in 1978, laid out the whole 620 acres, mixture of commercial and multifamily, as well as a lot of site-built as well as manufactured home over the years. So here I am, I came here when I'm 30 years old, 31 years old, and I'm 77, I'm still developing it. And so I'm a very patient developer. But I understand the process. You need to plan the whole thing, then you bite off in pieces what you're going to do. And, and that's how it works. I mean, that in essence, in my opinion, is what Las Barrancas is doing because they have more land there. And you have to have a plan and an idea. So all you're dealing with here is the zoning. You're not dealing with flood control or bridges across 40th Street. Those are decisions made by Yuma County as to what you have to do there, and it has to be approved by Yuma County. So it really doesn't have much to do with the developer. It's Yuma County saying, here's what you need to do, here's how big the culvert needs to be. Now they rely on the engineers and whatnot, but that's how it works. And anyway, the other thing that most people are probably not aware, but it was sometime in the 1990s, the city of Yuma and the county said, we don't want any more houses down in the Yuma Valley, so to speak, because our number one industry in this community is agriculture. And they're putting houses all over this ag ground. And so what they did is they determined that there's only so many acres you can develop down here. And my understanding is there's only about 600 acres remaining. And what they were trying to do is push all housing out to the east, which first thing you have to do is skip over the airport because of the noise attenuation area. And so, and like Kevin said, there's very little land left. And then there's a huge shortage here of housing. And Marine Corps Air Station, my understanding is they have 1,500 Marines here that had to leave their wives and family at another Marine Corps base because there's no housing here. And so there's tremendous need for housing in this community. They say there's room for at least 2,000 additional homes. And so anyway, That's what I got to say. And I think you should support this project. I support the rezoning. It's the logical way to do it. And they can't just do anything they want. They're going to go in and take 10 acres, 50 acres, 30 acres at a time. And then the county will make a decision on each one of those. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Next speaker.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Mike Fisher. I live at 14318 East 31st Place. I've been a Yuma resident for 51 years plus. Before any rezoning should be thought of, there should be considered Endangered Species Act, which the horned lizard, the desert tortoise, and the burrowing owl has already been mentioned. And the 404 permit or U.S. waterways, it's illegal to dump pollutions or contaminants into U.S. waterways, which Fortuna Wash dumps into Colorado River, which is a U.S. waterway. So the 404 permit, I don't know if it pertains to this, but it does pertain when the guys are making gravel pits, making asphalt out of gravel pits. So no pollutants or contaminants can be dumped into U.S. waterways. But the main thing is environmental study. I believe the developer should pay for this impact study for endangered species, because why should the taxpayers pay for it? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming and commenting. We have additional speakers outside? Anybody come over? We're checking to see if there's any additional from the other room.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Yes.
What I was saying, Mr. Chairman, is that we are not getting some of the documents into record. So if some of them want us to look at what they're submitting, we need to get that into record.
Right. Even though they didn't use it on the overhead, they could give it to staff if they want those documents they referred to as part of the permanent record. No more speakers? All right. Speakers have, we have one more speaker. We went on the left already.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to get my nerves out.
Okay.
My name is Nicole Baggerly. I'm at APN 728-07001. We did submit an email. I don't know if you guys got it, so I'm just going to read some parts from it because I worked really hard on it. I would first like to address the number of extremely important components that are missing from the rezoning application, specifically the site plan. The county has a document, it's a brochure titled Information Required for Rezoning Permits. And one of those points in there is a site plan with plans for utilities, plans for dwellings, all of that should have been submitted. Okay, but the recommendations based on an incomplete package is just premature and I don't think fair. Urban development land use designation makes up 20% of the foothills area, but R3, which falls under RUD, is 0 in the foothills. It's foreign, it's unmatching to the existing neighborhood. There are other types of zoning that fall under urban development that could be used instead of R3. The 60-foot height limit does not match the foothills at all. And like the other woman said, approving this would be not following your guys' comprehensive plan, which I was reading extensively too. So yes, approving the application in its current form and allowing it to be revised or updated along the way is not in the best interest of the current residents of the foothills, the community at large, nor the resources we are entrusted to protect. I believe this type of zoning is wrong for this area, but I do know that the foothills are growing steadily, and over time, as more and more people call this home, we must find a way to accommodate them. A well thought out and reasonable growth plan for the area should look similar to what we see now. However, let's address some of the major deficiencies in our current infrastructure before we attempt to grow this area further. The comments from ADOT are telling and should be addressed before this is recommended for approval. I also wanted to point out that Rural Metro was never contacted, and in their current form, they do not have anything that could support a 3-story dwelling to service a fire. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, thank you all for coming and commenting. We will close the public hearing portion of the meeting now. The speakers have all spoken, and we'll come back to the commissioners for discussion and action. Commissioners, what's the pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I personally would like to move that we continue this one as well so we can do some more research on some of the evidence and/or, for lack of better terms, evidence that has been presented tonight, that we can review it to make a better informed decision.
I'd like to second that. I just, it's, you know, the packets came at the normal time, but they were so, I read and read and read on this one and tried to put it together, and it's just too complicated. And I need more time to make a good decision on this, so I would like to see a table.
I concur. I hear both sides of it entirely. However, we did get a lot of information from residents over the day, and it wasn't adequate time for me during a work day to go through it and compare to the documents we were given to match things or anything. So that has me concerned that I didn't have adequate time to make a fair decision for any side.
Let me explore. We have a motion and a second. We have a motion by Commissioner Van Wy with a second by Commissioner McDermott to continue this item to our February 28th meeting.
Yes, sir.
As well. If this were to pass, let me explore with staff a bit. We've gone through the meeting, we've gone through the public hearing. If we do again on the 28th, there would not be an additional public hearing, is that right? We would just take up the meeting from where it is now?
Yes, it would be an additional public hearing.
So we would do additional public hearing.
Staff would not send out radius letters or repost the property or publish a notice in the newspaper, however.
Okay, so there would be opportunity for people to speak at that as well.
Yes, if you continue it to February 28th, this is the notice of that hearing.
Any other discussion?
I have a question for Maggie. How, in RVS zoning, how many parcels are allowed per acre?
Mr. Chairman, the RVS zoning allows 5 to 14 dwelling units per acre.
5 to 14?
5 to 14.
5 to 14, depending on how you develop the lots. Lots that are intended for recreational vehicles only can be as small as 2,400 square feet. Lots that are intended for site-built homes must be 6,000 square feet in size.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, staff would like to just remind you that every rezoning case has a schedule for development. So even though this, it has to go to the board for final approval. If the board were to approve any of these cases, the applicant still has 10 years to be able to come up with a development schedule that, where he proposed, what he tells us what he's proposing on the properties. So that has to be revisited every 10 years. So within 10 years, if the applicant does not satisfy this requirement, he has 10 years to do so. If within 10 years, he does not satisfy the schedule for development, this will go to the board either for a reversion or an extension of this case. Like the agent says, this is a long-term growth project. The plan, when the plan was adopted back in 2010, the original plan, the vision for this area was urban density residential, as it was originally intended for. And that's not changing. So that is still the vision for this area in the comp plan.
And Mr. Chairman, just a point of clarification. The schedule for development requires that the applicant submit a tentative map within 10 years of approval by the Board of Supervisors. he doesn't have 10 years to submit a schedule for development. He has 10 years to file a tentative map.
Tentative map.
So that's not required at this point, the map.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant or developer has 10 years to submit a tentative map. Or tentative maps, depending on how many divisions.
How many developments he does. Yes,
Just
Supervisor.
clarification, the motion includes item, was it 9 through 14?
9 through
Yes,
14.
correct. All of them, yes. And, Mr. Chairman, Maggie, but it does not require the applicant to submit a map for the request, present request. That's correct, right?
Chairman, that is correct. At this time, the applicant has not submitted a conceptual layout or even a preliminary layout for the development.
They're not required to do so.
Just exploring what kind of information are you going to see?
Well,
over the next
one
week?
of the speakers had mentioned that they thought that they had required to submit a tentative map, which is not, that's not correct.
Staff would have never got it to us here if they hadn't met
I
their
got you.
requirements.
Chairman, let
I
me.
see what you're saying, Matthias.
And that's where the confusion.
Right.
The site plan is submitted before the rezoning.
Zoning,
Right.
correct,
The
okay.
other stuff comes in
Later
down the
on.
road. If it's 2 years from now, 5 years from now, they have 10 years to submit that.
Roger.
They actually
Repeating
do.
again, it's not that now that we did this, let's go build it. That's
Right.
not the way it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question, ma'am?
So back, let's not get a colloquy going between the commissioners and the audience. It's hard to get it on tape. So what kind of stuff particularly are you looking for when we come back in 4 weeks? I mean, you're.
Required site plans for rezone.
My main thing was I wanted to explore the one document that the one speaker had mentioned about the going against the comprehensive plan. If there's something in there that we are going against, I don't believe that staff would go against the comprehensive plan. I believe that they, and that's one thing, yeah, I believe that the, after looking at the scores, the scores are remarkable. I mean, 285 and 290, you can't, I mean, it's hard to beat that. I mean,
Yeah, they're not going to deteriorate
you're
over
not-
time.
Right, and I think that if we do prolong it, we're just gonna be back at the same situation next month. So,
Who made that motion?
I know I did, that's why I might be reverting back. I mean, I'm just, I wanna be a team
I would
player
agree
here.
with you, though. I would like to see that document specifically that was referenced for clarity.
That's the only thing I'm concerned with.
Nothing
is that
against staff.
document.
Chairman, what document are,
One of the speakers said there was 9 points in our comprehensive plan that was being violated, or 13 points in the.
Mr.
comprehensive-
Chairman, we were provided with a copy of the
We can see that
document.
tonight, I think that.
Yeah, we would read it all.
Yeah, man.
It's highlighted in pink. It's pretty.
Mr. Chairman, it's under the policies and priorities of the Foothills Planning Area. This is the document that the speaker provided. We can make a copy, or we can direct you to the actual pages of the comprehensive plan.
Can we get a copy, please?
Have a copy.
Just do 10. You know there's
Minute
not 10.
recess.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The zoning ordinance does not require submittal of a site plan with a rezoning application. It just states that an application to amend the ordinance shall include forms, maps, plans, and other documents as prescribed by the planning director. Identify the applicant, nature of the proposed amendment, so submittal of a site plan is not required at the time of a zone change.
Mr. Chairman, as far as Maggie, after reviewing that piece of document that you just reviewed, is there anything in there that you see that, for lack of better terms, that we are going against, or that is there something there that would change the scoring?
Mr. Chairman, based on my experience and knowledge of when the comp plan was originally adopted and when it was presented as a 2010-2020 draft and was approved as such, the staff at that time did extensive research, going to the foothills planning area and different planning areas, because the plan is actually the plan of the people. The plan is what guides growth in Yuma County. And, as part of that outreach, the staff went out into the different planning areas, and we came up with a list of policies and priorities based on what the people wanted for the different planning areas. The staff is looking at the concerns of the customer, and the staff feels that none of these are in this proposal is not in violation of any of the policies and priorities of the foothills planning area. I could read them so you could see what the concerns are.
Please.
Okay, so do you have the?
They're making copies.
So I believe it's F3.
Page 78.
I have that.
Policies and planning.
Correct. So the first one was F3, which reads, new residential development should be of a density that is compatible with the existing density of development in the foothills planning area. Again, this is designated as urban density residential, which is what's compatible to what's out there right now. In fact, the Barrancas to the south, all that is zone RVS. The next one, F4, new residential development should occur in a manner that enhances park and recreational opportunities. Now, that's something that, it's been a concern over the years, and it's, this is a item that's been brought up to the board because there is a need for more parks. But this is at a county-wide level, and that's something that the board needs to address maybe at a future date.
Mr. Chairman, the board did adopt a parks master plan.
And there is there's a park currently being
bid right now.
constructed in proximity to this area along the frontage road. Number F5.
Gotcha, okay.
Future residential development should not cause the quality of life of foothill residents to decline. Again, I mean, the proposal here is to allow for the type of development that currently exists, and it allows also for coordinated growth because they're planning for commercial areas that would accommodate the needs of the future residents in the area, which include gas stations and convenience stores and regional shopping centers, stuff like that. Number F6, residential development should not outpace the development of infrastructure to support it. And again, as part of this development, the developer will have to do the necessary improvements for this to function, roads and retention basins, and everything that's necessary for this subdivision to be able to be developed. It would be at the cost of the developer. Is F7 on this? F7, a lower density of residential development in the foothills is desired. There are some parts in the foothills that are designated for low density residential development, and that's how the foothills have developed for those areas. Specifically to the west, the Desert Foothills Estate subdivision is zone R120, R112, that is low density residential development. This again is designated urban density, which allows a little bit higher density development because that's what was adopted originally with the comp plan. Is F8 also F8? F8, the impact on water supply and sewage treatment systems will be specifically analyzed and taken into account when considering any future land use designation change. This is also part of the development of a subdivision in this area. Nothing is going to be approved without the Arizona Corporation Commission ensuring that there's going to be adequate water supply for these houses to be built.
I know.
F8, the impact. Okay, so F9, certain state and federal lands, particularly in the immediate vicinity of the Gila Mountains, should be preserved as open space. We have that, and those are the open space land use destinations that are in proximity to the Gila Mountains. That is protected for future. To prohibit future development in those areas, not here, but further to the east. F9? F9? Okay, that already read that. F10? encourage appropriate buffers to mitigate conflicting land uses, including between aggregate mining and residential land use. I believe there's some of that activity that's taking place. A lot of the mining out here is on the north side, closer to the Gila Mountains, and there's some buffer areas that allow that use so that it doesn't interfere with the residential character of the area. I mean, that's not being proposed here, but so that's also, I mean, we don't see that as a concern. What's the other one, the last one? F13? F13, encourage the conservation and enhancement of open space and sensitive wildlife habitats. We did receive comments from the Arizona Game and Fish Department, and those are comments that we coordinate with Arizona Game and Fish, but more than anything, the developer, for the most part, and with their experience that staff has, that they do work with the developer to ensure that any protected species are there's certain mitigations that are put in place to protect endangered species and the natural habitat.
So what you're saying, I think, is that when these things were put in place, it didn't say take one person's land and freeze it because we want open space. I mean, you've got open space plan, but it's not on the private lands owned by this person. So you don't find any of these 13 points or whatever the total is to be incompatible with your recommendation of approval and the score.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct. As part of I
understand you do, but we can't really be screaming out in public.
The staff will be presenting the comp plan, the next item on the agenda. And staff, we did an in-house review. We did extensive research on the document, and we went over all the planning, the policies and priorities, and we felt that it's still compatible and usable, to ensure that Yuma County grows in an orderly way, and for the next 10 years.
Yes, so bottom line, we still have a motion and we have a second to continue this. We're under the discussion phase of that now. The discussion has taken place. Is there any other discussion? Are you still?
I want to withdraw my motion at this present time because we answered what I needed answered. I think we need to come back to commissions to re-speak it over.
I believe that requires Commissioner McDermott to withdraw her
I'll
second.
withdraw my second, as I understand what you're saying, because we just have this meeting twice.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, whether we go forward or not, I think what we find out is staff has done a lot of research, a lot of time. They put it together. We've heard from the community. They're obviously not going to be happy with development out there, and I can't say as I blame them. It's a beautiful view.
I agree.
I mean, that property is gorgeous.
Mr. Chairman.
We just need to try to perhaps, so let the record show the first and the second have been withdrawn.
Right.
Now that we're back to discussion and action.
Maggie, as far as Juan, as far as the comprehensive plan, does the R2 and R3 fall within that comprehensive plan?
Mr. Chairman, the question is for staff,
Understand.
and we'd like to have the opportunity to
Yeah,
answer.
but if we engage, they'll go.
Mr. Chairman, as you can see on the map here, the portions of property that are being amended, it's because those really don't fit with the comp plan. So that's why that triggers a minor amendment. The zoning that's being proposed on those properties do not fit the plan. However, again, based on planning principles, based on the comp plan, and based on the type of uses that the staff would like to see, based on the comp plan and orderly growth, those uses would accommodate the needs of future residents in the area.
Well, none of us want to see it, I'm sure, but no matter where you go in Yuma, you find a shortage of housing, and there's going to have to be some of us that live a little tighter than we wish we could, wish we had to, and that's from the city level all the way out to our area. But so we have to act on each of these individually. So number 9 would be the first one if there's any action to be taken. tonight.
And then just, can we get clarification that Commissioner Mulhern is also recusing himself from items 10 through 14? Because he just said 9 before we opened up the other
That
ones.
is
I know
correct.
you are, I just want to
All
make
of
sure
it.
it's on the record.
That's correct. He hasn't made a whisper. Yes, let the record show that Commissioner Mulhern has declared a conflict on items 9 through 14, and he has not participated in any discussion and will not participate in any action if some is taken.
Are these motions individual?
Individual.
Mr. Chairman, we are going to vote on them individually.
We would need to do an action on each individual item. Item number 9, the minor amendment case, minor amendment case number 22-05. What's the pleasure of the commission?
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve minor amendment case number 22-05.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to recommend approval of minor amendment case 22-05.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can you inform us who seconded the motion? Because
Ron Van Wy was the second I heard, but it had more than 1 second. And you know that Mr. Allen was the first. Okay. Is there any discussion? Motion and second.
Was a discussion.
Rubber stamp. Rubber stamp.
Let's let the audience dispense.
Nothing to help the people of this community, and you are wrecking the community, and you need to understand that.
His wife flipped us off right now.
Well, I guess we just approve them all then.
Wow. All right, we have a motion and a second.
I did nothing
All
to
in
help
favor
yourself.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
we need to.
Any opposed?
You guys don't even live here, do you?
Item number 9, minor amendment case number 22-06. Passed unanimous.
Five.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's 5.
05, passed with recommendation of approval unanimously. Item number 10, rezoning case number 22-22.
Make a motion to pass as staff presented.
We have a motion by Commissioner Rosales with a second by Mr. Allen to recommend approval of rezoning case 22-22 as presented by staff. Any discussion?
I have a
Discussion.
problem with that rezoning to RVS on that. I just don't like it. I think it gives them too much latitude to move that. If you give them 5 to 14 parcels per acre, it's too many. I don't like it. They can ask for a different rezoning on it.
I believe this one's for C2.
That's not RVS. That's R2, R3.
No, it's RVS in 2222.
Are we on 2206? Which one are we on?
22 of 22.
Oh, okay.
283 acres.
Are we on 2222?
22.
22.
Any other discussion? The motion and second is to recommend approval. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Can we do a roll call?
Do a roll call vote, please.
Adrian Mosqueda,
Nay.
Ron Rice, Jim Allen,
Yes.
Danny Bryant,
Aye.
Matias Rosales,
Aye.
Bobby McDermott,
No?
Ron Van Wy.
No.
Motion fails. 3-4.
So item number 10 will go to the supervisors with the recommendation of denial. Item number 11, minor amendment case 22-06.
Make a motion to approve as presented by staff.
I have a motion by Commissioner Rosales.
Second.
With a second by Commissioner Allen to recommend approval of minor amendment case 22-06. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Recommendation is approved with one dissenting vote. Item number 12, rezoning case number 22-24.
Make a motion to approve item 2224 as presented by staff with the recommendations.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Rosales with a second by Commissioner Dermott to recommend approval of rezoning case 22-24 as presented by staff. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Let the record show the motion passed with one dissenting vote. Recommendation of approval. Item number 14, right?
You're on number
13.
12.
12, I turned the page.
2207.
I turned the page too fast.
2224, no?
2207.
07.
I was right, so it
Okay,
is,
you're right.
13, yeah. Minor amendment case
Here.
22-07.
This one is the one. Make a motion to approve as staff recommendation. Item number 2207.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rosales with the second by Commissioner Allen to recommend approval of minor amendment case 22-07. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to approve passed unanimously. Item number 14, rezoning case number 22-25.
Make a motion to approve as presented by staff. Item number 2225 with recommendations.
There's a motion by Commissioner Rosales with a second by Commissioner Allen to recommend approval of rezoning case 22-25. Any discussion?
Just the fact that this also includes 153 acres from RA10 to recreational vehicle subdivision.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Roll call vote, please.
AJ Mosqueda,
Nay.
Ron Rice,
Nay.
Jim Allen,
Yes.
Danny Bryant,
Yes.
Matias Rosales,
Aye.
Bobby McDermott,
Nay.
Ron Van Wy.
Nay.
Motion fails 3-4.
Recommendation will go forward to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of denial. Next item on tonight's agenda is item number 15. Item number 15, review of the Yuma County 2030 Comprehensive Plan pursuant to Arizona Revised Statutes 11-805. Staff report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Juan Leal Rubio, Senior Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. This is the presentation of the 2030 Comprehensive Plan, the draft.
Can we have discussion?
The intent of the plan is to accomplish coordinated, adjusted, and harmonious development of the unincorporated areas of Yuma County. The purpose and effect is primarily as an aid to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Supervisors in the performance of your duties as far as land use development. This is dictated and required by Arizona Revised Statute that requires that the board adopt a comp plan every 10 years. And as part of this adoption or readoption of the plan, this will allow that, this is the official guide for development of the area of Yuma County. And this is the adopted comp plan would be good for up to 10 years. This draft is the result of the action taken by the board back on March 7, 2022. At that time, they denied the adoption of a previously presented draft in order to allow staff to prepare a more updated plan. You know, there was a lot of stuff that was happening during that time. One of them was the COVID. So it created some hardships for staff as far as outreach and trying to coordinate and present a good draft. But this time around, we do have a good draft, and hopefully you'll look at it and you'll like it and it will be adopted. We'll recommend it for adoption. What we did on this draft, again, we received direction from the board back on March 7, 2022. We, as part of the draft, we did a review, and we prepared the draft plan in-house. That was done through June 8th, from June 8th, 2022 through October 1st of 2022. So we presented the draft comp plan, which is what you have in the agenda item. As part of this, we did extensive research. We did the public information, public participation guide, which is part of the comp plan, and that was done October 25th, 2022 through December 27th, 2022. There was a meeting here with the Planning and Zoning Commission with you. At that time, you released this draft for the public. As part of this public participation plan, we had an open house meeting on November 15th of last year in this auditorium. We had some people that attended, and we got some good feedback. And also, this came back to you today. It's coming to you today. Hopefully, you'll make a recommendation for approval. And if this is recommended for approval, this will go to the board next month, February 22nd. As part of the update of this plan, we received comments back in 2021. We incorporated most of the comments that we received from the different agencies. Some of the agencies include YMPO, the Arizona Attorney General's Office, comments from City of Yuma County Airport Authority, Arizona Game and Fish, MCAS Yuma. Most of the comments that were provided were good comments, and we incorporated those into the draft plan. So most, if not all, of those comments. Staff would like to recommend that you approve the proposed 2030 comp plan.
Any commissioners have questions of staff at this point? No questions of staff. We do the public hearing portion for this as well. Yes, so let's open the public hearing portion of this meeting and ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak concerning the comprehensive plan 2030 pursuant to Arizona revised statutes that has been published. Yes, come forward.
It wouldn't be an evening without our friend.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Antonio Martinez, Marine Corps Station Yuma. No, I just want to say, thanks to the staff, because we actually work really close with them working on this comp plan, which still allows the Marine Corps Station and the range to be protected. So in that sense, we appreciate that, and we hope to continue to protect those buffer zones and those noise zones surrounding the air station, so we can be here for many, many years after that. So,
and hopefully provide housing for your
users. Yes, we actually got some work on base right now. We're renovating some of the really old housing that we had is going through. I don't know if you've driven through the gate. So yeah, we're always looking for more than that. We also trying to accommodate the talking to Congress so we can get the pay for the young Marines to actually match the rent, because it's outrageous right now. So we're trying to have a Marine Lance Corporal E3, and the only place available for them is a house, which they cannot afford. And then the rent that you have for some of the trailers out there on Avenue C, where you've seen most of the news, a lot of shootings down there.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing they can afford. So yeah, I mean, housing is important to us. But obviously, we also like to protect those buffer zones even more, because no buffer zones, no range, no Marines.
So do you support this proposed plan?
We do. We work, like I mentioned, I want to say thanks to the staff. We work closely with them, and we have like a good open lines of communication regarding this plan.
That's great. Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Anyone else in the audience? Yes, come forward, please.
My name's Aaron Selye. I live in the foothills at APN number 72807-001. The new comprehensive plan is much more thorough than the last one. It incorporates a lot more of the public's opinion, and I'd recommend approval for that.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience like to speak concerning this proposed 2030 comprehensive plan? If not, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting and come back to the commissioners for discussion and action.
Chairman,
Commissioner Van Wy.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the comprehensive plan as written and presented by staff.
We have a motion by Commissioner Van Wy with a second by, I'm going to get the last name one time, Commissioner, last name?
Mosqueda.
Mosqueda. Gosh, I wish I could get that. We have a motion and a second to recommend approval of the proposed 2030 comprehensive plan as presented by staff. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recommendation to approve is passed. Next item on tonight's agenda is to elect a chairman.
We did that
I
already.
thought we did that.
Comprehensive plan. Now, what we can pass a rezoning when it gets brought up.
That's in the comprehensive plan.
Mr. Chairman,
What?
the commission's bylaws actually state that the vice chairman is elevated to the office of chairman. And so the only election that should take place, which shall be in January, should be for the vice chairman.
Oh, so I did that. It's nice to actually read the rules occasionally, isn't it?
You get to retire by default.
Right.
Then you go to vice chairman then.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that Danny Bryant be the vice chairman.
I agree. I second that. Because Scott's going to be recused from everything anyway, so.
Exactly why I don't want to do it. I mean,
Mr. Chairman?
I don't have to do it, right?
Hold on, we have a, yes.
There's nothing there that says that I have to be.
No, you would not have to do it if you are going to not accept the
I'm not going to accept it. 'cause,
nomination.
no.
Okay.
Then you'd have to elect a chairman.
In this case, yes, you would need
I
to
never
elect
say
a
no to
chairman
stuff.
and a vice chairman.
I would like to
I'm
make.
sorry. I was rude and I
Yeah,
didn't listen.
he was
We were
interrupted.
rude. We didn't listen. What was that last comment you
Go ahead.
said?
He would not have to.
Because your vice chairman is not going to agree to be elevated to chairman, then you would need to elect a chairman and a vice chairman today.
Too much for me. I mean, for
Any
the,
restrictions on Danny doing it a third consecutive year?
Yes, the bylaws provide that they shall not serve more than 2 consecutive terms without at least 1 year separation.
Right.
You said more than 2 consecutive, correct?
More than 2 consecutive terms.
Terms, and a term is 2 years, correct? So that would be 4?
A term is 1 year.
1, okay, perfect, that's clear.
I understood that earlier too.
Right,
The term was
yeah,
2 years.
exactly, yeah, me too.
Earlier beginning.
Right.
That's a good thing you asked that. So.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that I'd like to nominate Mr. Matthias as the chairman and you as the vice chairman.
Second.
We have to do 2 separate.
Let's do
Okay,
one
I would
at a
like,
time.
I nominate Matthias as the chairman.
The good thing that there is no Matthias here.
I'm so sorry. I try so hard to say it right. I concentrate. I don't know if you notice. I'm like,
There is a motion
I
by.
could have said Matthias.
There is a motion by Commissioner Van Wy with a second by Commissioner Rice to elect Matias Rosales as chairman for. Is there any other motion?
right now.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you need
haven't said
to,
any against.
you need to, you need to get a vice chairman elected.
Mr. Chairman, I move to elect Danny Bryan as your vice chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against say nay. I gave you the options. All right, with that said, discussion and commission. We did that already. No. Discussion and commission members, the planning director events. Any current events or discussions of future meetings or conferences or anything that we need to be aware of? None? Hearing none? All right. With that, Mr. Bryant, thank you for your past 2 years of being the chairman.
Thank you, Danny.
Very well meetings, and Very
I really
patient.
think you should have took over at the beginning. of
Nah,
this
yeah, I'm glad you guys did. What's planned?
Scott, thank you for standing in when you did. Appreciate it. No, and I know we're stuck on you.
Yeah, it's hard for me with my situation.
Yeah, it is.
Well, there's opinion of that, but we'll
I
talk about
know,
that later.
I'm gonna look at the rules a little
At the
bit.
city, it doesn't affect me because you don't make them. We'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about it.
All right, with that said, motion to adjourn.
Done.
Staff wants to go home. Thank